them everything. Stay! You guys only wish it was Las Vegas. No, no. Before I get started, can everybody hear me okay? Are we good? Give me a 1 in the chat if you got if the audio is good. Is the audio good? Rolling mic today, and this is had to make sure that I got a good test going here. All right, gentlemen, welcome to the Rational Male. This is a sort of using the wrong one. There we go. All right, guys, I do have something else for you here, though. Sorry, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. You'll understand why when I when I come into the video proper here.
Fellas, do not choose a woman who don't want to be a woman.
Right. So you don't want to be a woman.
I just
no,
let
you don't want to be a woman because you don't want to brain yourself every day.
Azar, yelling doesn't mean you're winning an argument.
And okay, I don't
so
care.
Stop yelling. You can yell, but it doesn't. Yelling doesn't mean you're winning an argument.
It means that I want to yell.
It's just a sign of low intelligence. And means that
I don't have low intelligence.
It's a sign of you signaling that you have low intelligence when you yell instead of just using your inside voice.
This is the number one complaint I have for girls when they like lose their shit on like our show or like on other shows. It's like you have a microphone right in front of you. There's no reason to raise your voice.
Go ahead, say what you want to say.
Fellas, find a woman who loves being a woman and doing womanly things. Ladies, find a man who loves being a man and doing manly things. We are not equal.
I agree.
And that's what's messing the world up because a lot of women believe we're equal.
I don't agree.
I'm not talking about you right now. Right now, I'm in general. When I get to you, I'm going to do like this. I'm going to point right at you.
Bite that finger off.
You will, wife. Look at the wife. Biting fingers, slapping people in the hand. Men, find a woman who loves doing womanly things, who take pride in that. Women, find a man who loves doing manly things and take pride in that. We're not created equal. I know a lot of women are pushing this narrative, the most ubiquitous narrative now amongst modern day women. We're equal. We're not. We're both important.
The number of people that you've slept with. I have just a quick question before we dive into this. Oh. Do guys really care about a girl's number?
Yeah.
I'm not going to pin it on you, but I'm saying in general, from your friends, from what you heard, what is like a number that people usually?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's different for everybody. But do they care? I think most people do. I think a lot of people pretend like they don't.
Right.
And I don't think that it necessarily matters, but I do think a lot of people
I think it depends on the box theory of where you put that girl in your brain. Like if you see her as, this is just my hypothesis on it. If you see her as wife, girlfriend material, you'd hope her number would be lower. Whereas if you just see her as a one-night stand, you don't really care what the number is. Perhaps.
I think that's generally true, yeah.
Generally true. Listen, if a guy asks you that, he is not the guy. He is an insecure dude with his own problems.
You guys got asked that on your first date?
I haven't. She has. First of all, women, if you're ever thinking...
You notice that the good girl doesn't get asked that, but the chick who looks like a skank, she does get asked that?
Thinking about your number and you're embarrassed about it, please don't. Who cares? If he's judging you on your number... Goodbye, sayonara, he's not your man. Oh, because he can have 70 lovers and then you have had 17. You're strictly on the scarlet letter zone.
17 would be like low.
It's been told there's one of two choices. You can have a beta or an alpha, and nobody wants the beta when you're a strong female, or maybe most of us don't, right? Yeah. So we're always going for alphas, and alphas are like, I need you to be submissive, and they're super competitive with us, and we have a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Later, I discover the sigma. The sigmas do not compete with their women. They want their women to be strong and independent. It doesn't mean they're not being gentlemen and chivalrous. They're still showing up that way, but they're a bit of a lone wolf. They're natural leaders. They kind of sit in the background. They get pulled to be leaders. And
I love it when like women on dating apps or dating sites or whatever, what are these podcasts, they suddenly discover Vox Day's sociosexual hierarchy. If you ask this chick, like, okay, that's great. What's a delta? She wouldn't be able to tell you. You say, what's a gamma? What's an omega? What's a secret king? They would never be able to tell you.
Run things because of their natural leadership skills.
Right.
However, they're not in front of the room saying, I'm the big dog. I'm the one, who's got to do it. Like, they're not leading in that way.
See, that's funny. They have to make like the alpha guy, this insecure dude who's like all full of, he's like a Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
And so when it comes to the relationship with women, they're like, please rise up. Let's be a power couple. No problem. I'm still going to lead where, I'm going to lead. Yeah. But they allow the woman.
It's like she makes this character in her mind. Like, this is what he's really like.
To have the space. And there's not that competitive energy that causes a lot of problems for strong women.
No, actually, there's no such thing as a sigma, Pookie. There's pro-social alphas and there's anti-social alphas, and you're just basically fixating on whatever you think you need at the current moment.
I think it's an ick when a guy has abs in his like late 20s or 30s and he's not a professional athlete.
Oh, good.
I'm like, what is clearly like they're overcompensating for.
Do you think guys with abs would be like getting it with this girl?
Or something that they have to have like 3% body fat. Unless you're making money from your abs, why the f do you have abs?
Totally. Amen. Because you don't need abs to be healthy.
Because chicks dig abs.
Clip it.
Some would say it's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy. It's an unhealthy obsession.
Okay. Few things to break apart here. First off, I love how she like said it's 20 to 30 year olds, like it's age specific. So if you're 40 and you want abs, you were in the clear. I think it's odd how this thing has flipped where it's like all of a sudden we're shaming fit people, but it's not okay to shame overweight people, but it's now okay to shame fit people. Now listen, they are correct that the pursuit of getting those abs could be unhealthy. However, it is more statistically possible to become a millionaire than it is to get abs, because getting abs is really, really hard. So if you have achieved abs, or you currently have them, or you want them, hell yeah, my hat is off to you. And also, you do not have to be 3% to have abs. You could have abs at 10%. 3%. But to say it's ick and you're overcompensating for something by having abs, and the only way you can have those is if you make money off them, it's the dumbest shit I've seen all day. I can't. The internet wins today.
What's funny is the percentage of men who have like visible abdominal muscles is like so rare in the United States. That's what I think like sort of bugs them.
More likely to believe in things like astrology and crystals than men are, and if so, why?
Yes. I feel like women are just more influenced by social media too, because I find that there's more women on social media, and the more like things like this trend, they just kind of follow it.
I suppose so. Couldn't really tell you the reason why, but I enjoy them. I wouldn't say like I'm really into it, but I enjoy them if men are into that.
I think women are more in touch with their feelings, which is linked to zodiacs.
When you were born has nothing to do with who you are as a person, in my opinion, because who you are more so has to do with the people you hang around with, the atmosphere you grew up in, things like that, who raised you as a child. That's more so what has to do with who you are as a person.
Mostly.
Women are delusional. That's why. And they have to hold on to something like false hope, and that's astrology. They want to know everything, and if they don't have answers, they'll find answers somewhere else. Exactly.
That's a good one right there. They want secret knowledge. This guy here in the blue, that's her trainer. The guy next to her is her husband. You're done. You're done, dude. It's just file for divorce now.
Another baby in November that I decided not to keep.
You told me that the baby died and died. She said the baby died with his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck.
Oh, I was not that dramatic.
And I might hate you for the rest of my life, for real. Because you knew.
Earrings?
You knew.
Why would you tell him that the baby was dead, though?
To be honest, I wanted him to be hurt. I wanted his feelings to be hurt. I just wanted him to feel something because I never feel like he feels anything. And I'm always the one just feeling some stuff, like feeling hurt.
So you decide to teach him by saying the baby is dead. Well done. Thank you, Montel Williams. Oh, guys. Okay, let me know if this sounds okay. This is my traveling mic. I actually dug this out of the garage today. This is one of my old mic booms from like way back in the day. If it sounds echoey in here, it's because there's nothing in here. You can see like I've been tearing out the walls and everything. This is my very last, probably like I'm leaving Reno on Thursday. So I wasn't even going to do a show today, but then I go, you know what? I think I have all the elements and all the things I need. And so if the lighting looks really weird, it's because I have my two task lights over here. And if it's, like I said, if it's a little echoey, I apologize. I'm trying to, but yeah, I mean, it's not as good as old setup, but at least, hey man, but it's good. You know, people will put up with shitty video, but they will not put up with bad audio. So, so hopefully everything's good. I've tried this setup before. My traveling mic, sometimes I have a little bit of trouble because I got a newer Mac, and so it has a different USB setting. So I got to like set things up and kind of jigger it around a little bit. So there you go. There you go. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Yes. Because stand your mic with big pat. What you mean, like here, there you go. All right. Much better. Yeah, I just dug this out of my storage. I didn't even like, this is one of the, like, I've got a really nice expensive ass one of these things, and this was my old Rode one, and it still works just as well. So at least I think so. Anyways, yeah. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to do kind of like an AMA. So if you guys have questions about anything, I've already seen a few things coming up in the chat here. I've got a couple of topics that I want to jump in on. Some things that I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't even going to do this show today, but there's been so much going on, like sort of in the sphere it's not even that big a deal. It's just important to me. It's just a big deal to me. So I decided I was going to do a show, and I have been busting my ass. Like, I have, this house is like a 5-bedroom house, and so I'm like going room by room by room, and that's not including this studio. That's not including downstairs. That's not including my music studio. That's not, because there's like loft areas and other areas in here. And I'm moving actually into a bigger house in Las Vegas. And it's nice, but I don't feel like I got enough of this place, you know. I only lived like I've only been here for 2 years. So but I kind of have to be down in Vegas now, because I got so much going on with Mike. I got so much going on with Access Vegas. I got so much going on with Reignite and MOA, and, you know, Babes in Toyland, and the Bunny Ball, by the way. There's another one. You want to go to the Bunny Ball? You want to go to the Bunny Ball? Bunny Ball is in November, so we'll be doing that one. I think Mike is going down to Cancun. He's going to go on the foam cannon party. I think it's either Cancun or it's Cabo. I'm not sure, but he's got Swimsuit USA that he's doing. I wish I could go, but I am stuck. I get to move instead. It's so much more fun than going and watching half naked girls run around and compete for your attention, which I could have been a judge on. Great. So anyways, but it's okay. I got a lot of business to do, and I got a lot of other things. I got a lot of irons in the fire. Oh, and has anybody checked out, if you haven't, if you don't subscribe to me, or if you don't follow me on Instagram, you probably should, because I've been doing a lot more with Instagram recently. So, and not the least of which, because we're launching Reignite. Reignite actually launched last week. And it's doing so well, I almost have to like throttle things back until I get done with the responsibilities that I have here in Reno and well, Vegas as well. But I got so much going on right now that it's kind of overwhelming, and it's also overwhelming the team right now too, because we had such a positive response to Reignite, like more so than I even anticipated. So I gotta get back. I have to get back to Las Vegas. So, but if you're interested in joining the Reignite group project, whatever we're calling it, you guys, it's really weird for me to even talk about it. It's not like classes so much, but it is classes. It's also a community, but it's also something else too. It's a network. It's a community of guys. It's a tribe. Like I was saying before, if you, whatever your particular needs are, whatever reasons like you guys have come into this space, you've probably gotten an email from me, or probably an email as well, but you probably got a DM from me through Instagram or from Twitter, those being my two main sources, but also off of my email list as well. And if you've got if you're getting questions from me, they're asking you things like, I haven't seen Romulus yet. Sorry, no, I haven't. I'm gonna just wait till it comes out on. I'm gonna wait till it comes out on video, because I've got to because I have about a 90-inch big screen TV that's like an 8K TV downstairs that I have to move, and I figured I'll probably go and watch this movie on my big gigantic screen TV at some point. Oh, and I can't wait to play Space Marine 2 on it. Yeah, I'll never leave the house. But so if you've gotten a DM from me saying, hey, look, what I'm sort of like getting a feel of guys, like sort of like petitioning guys for like, how did you get into this? How did you find me? What are you here for? What are you looking for? And this is not like, I'm not trying to be like a dick or like be probing or anything. I'm not trying to like step on your toes or anything like that. It's like the reason why I'm asking those questions in the DMs is because I want to know like what guys are like, what their primary interests are for like following me, reading my books, watching this podcast, joining Reignite. If you're in MOA, I would like to know why you're in MOA. Because I want to be able to sort of develop sort of projects and programs within the Reignite program. So like if your thing is fitness, I really want to learn how to do like TRT or hormone optimization. We have like a whole setup for that. Rollo, I need you to tell me like attraction cues and what's an IOI and what's a fucking sigma, right? What's an alpha? I'm happy to tell you those things. That's actually in the third module of the videos that I just did. But if that's your thing, then I can direct you over there. If you're saying, hey man, I really want to get my money on point, I'm looking into real estate, I'm looking into or crypto or whatever, I can refer you to like Miguel or Trader SZ or Charlie from Cultivate Crypto, Dollar Cost Crypto, those guys. And get to your like specific questions. Not too many people follow me for crypto, but like that might be, there's a lot of guys in the crypto sphere that follow me as well as Miguel. There's a lot of crossover. So I'm trying to, if you got something from me, it's meant to gauge like what you guys are looking for so that I can sort of like cater to the specifics of what you guys are looking for. And just so I can develop a better program. So that's why we're sort of petitioning for those things right now. So if you got something like that and you want to answer it, I mean, it can be as long or as short as you want. It's fine with me. So if you got something from me in Instagram or Twitter or in an email, that's what that's about. So check that out. Yeah, Reignite is actually taking off better than I thought. In fact, so much so that I'm having to weigh and balance like my responsibilities, like moving my own shit from Reno to Vegas, and then I got to get back. And I'm also still writing the sixth book right now too. So I got a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm just trying to like prioritize things. And part of that is figuring out what you guys your primary interests are. So there you go. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, I don't need coaching. I just need red pill. That's why. See, that's funny you should say that, because that was actually one of the first things I told these guys is most of the guys that follow me are looking for a tribe, and so that's been kind of a primary focus of myself, and just sort of on the concept of like, I guess, tribalism. Maybe that's a better way to talk about it. Dude, I'm always going to say LTDs and ESPs. Sorry. So not sorry. Let's see. No, I don't need to do that. I just need to unstar that. Okay, there we go. Is the marriage birth rate collapse due to the shortage of emotionally vulnerable dark triad monogamous chads? No, it's not. Or do women have delusional standards? They have delusional standards, more or less. If you're going to, if I had to say it's one or the other, it's going to be delusional standards. I'll reiterate this. I'm actually working on an essay about this. I've got probably 3 essays in my drafts folder for Substack. If you don't follow me on Substack, please do. The link is in the description right there. If you have to go below the fold and click more, then you're going to have to go get it to get the link, but the link is there. But follow me on Substack, because I'm actually talking about this on Substack. Not so much the fertility rates or the birth rate collapse. By the way, marriage cause, I just should call you MCD. MCD. The fertility crisis has been, at least in the United States, has been something that we've been below replacement levels since the mid 70s. So don't let anybody tell you this is some like new thing. Oh my gosh, these women with their unrealistic standards. Well, if we're gonna blame it on unrealistic standards, we're gonna blame it on emotionally vulnerable dark triad monogamous chads, right? We need to go all the way back to like 1975, 1976 to like sort of get a grip on all of this. And I don't think that the conditions, like the sexual marketplace conditions in the mid 70s, are anything like they are in the mid 2020s. So we have to sort of look at those, and it's a confluence of a lot of, it's like a perfect storm, right? It's a confluence of a lot of other things that are going on as well. I had it's funny you should bring that up. I had a conversation with George Gammon one time, and we're talking about, was it Malthusian economics or something like that? And it's basically how to control birth rates and how to control population, but not like killing people with war, right? Because now we're a nuclear armed society, right? So we have to find other ways to diminish population. And one of those ways is empowering women as the sort of the zeitgeist and the narrative of, men ain't shit and women don't need men. They just want men. And so as a result, you see more and more women unable to find guys that are acceptable, that are marriageable, that are economically attractive. And so the more we empower women, the less and less there's going to be men who are good candidates, because what you're doing is you're taking sort of this empirical reality of evolution, of the way that women's nature. Women can't look up to a guy who is her equal. They're not looking for an equal. They're looking for somebody who is above them, is stronger than them, makes more money than at least half again, if not more than they make. And the one thing I was going to tell you, and I mentioned this before, and as I said, I'm writing a Substack about this, but most modern women, certainly like the latter half of the millennials and like all of Gen Z right now, they're, for women in like westernized countries, they want to live out the narrative of Pretty Woman. They want to be the hooker with the heart of gold, right? They want to be able to whore around. And I don't mean that in like, I'm saying this sort of like flippantly, but they want to be able to ride the cock carousel, whatever the red term parlance is. And then stick what Dalrymple calls sticking the landing. Like he's got to stick the landing, right? Buzzer beaters, if you prefer, Coach Greg Adams, but it's the same thing, right? It's like get out of the club before the lights come on at the club, and find some guy to go off into perpetuity with, and that's usually the way things have been working out. You're looking at women who are sort of looking for that short-term sexual thrill from 18 to about 28, maybe 29, and then 29, 30, 31, that's the epiphany phase. And that's when it's like, okay, I need to find some guy who is ready for the long haul. I've had my fun. No more fun for you. We must get serious. And it's usually those guys, the guys who are willing to commit, certainly not the dark triad, emotionally vulnerable chads, right? The girls are the guys that they can't lock down. And so sticking the landing is something that women think they're going to be able to do. And even if it to the point where they will try to convince themselves, women are really good at gaslighting themselves. That's how they, like when women say, oh, he's gaslighting you, this guy's gaslighting you, blah, 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 blah. First of all, they don't even know what gaslighting is. And second of all, women are much more effective gaslighters of themselves than men will ever be of women, because women are suspicious of men. They're not suspicious of themselves or the sisterhood or their girlfriends or whatever else. So, but half of that comes from the idea that that they're going to live out the Pretty Woman narrative, right? They're going to be able to be, Julia Roberts, and they're going to find their Richard Gere. and they're going to, and that's the only option they have. So if you've got a woman who is, for all intents and purposes, a prostitute on OnlyFans or whatever it is, you can make the case that maybe she's an influencer, maybe she's an FHM model, a Maxim cover model, whatever, however you want to, parse it out, and to greater or lesser degree, just depends on the girl. But let's just say, for sake of argument, you're looking at the OnlyFans generation, and the only man who's going to be a suitable, eligible bachelor, an eligible candidate, is a guy who's a multimillionaire who doesn't have a problem with dating an escort. And that's basically the plot from Pretty Woman. So when you've got Julia Roberts and you've got Richard Gere, who is this multi-bajillionaire who just is so forgiving and so understanding. He's so secure in his masculinity. He doesn't care what her body count is, because clearly if you're dating an escort, it's probably pretty high and you don't really need to ask those questions. And why would you? You're a multi-bajillionaire. And it's like, remember the scene where it's like he has the diamond necklace and it closes and she's like, that's what they're expecting. They're expecting the knight in shining armor, the Richard Gere guy, to come and basically out earn them. The only eligible bachelor, the only guy who's her equal, is somebody who out earns her. And if she's earning anywhere between, if she's one of the top creators on OnlyFans, they're going to have a really tough time finding Richard Gere. They're going to have a really tough time finding that multi-million-dollar eligible bachelor who's okay with an escort, who doesn't ask about, body count. And maybe that's just what he's about. And, he's this incorrigible bachelor. It's Beauty and the Beast as well. I mean, it's Hooker and the Beast, I guess. But it's the narrative of the, the guy who's the total package comes in and saves her from herself, right? Why would a top earning OnlyFans girl or a top earning prostitute or a top earning model, however you want to slice it out, if a woman is making, let's just say this, I don't even want to call it a sex worker. Let's just say if a woman is making money off of her sexuality and advertising her sexual availability and looks good and looks fantastic and makes a lot of money doing it, you don't even have to be on OnlyFans. You could be just you could be a swimsuit model. You could be a lingerie model. Anything that is, you could be in the Black Tape Project, right? Hell no. I love it. And by the way, ladies, I got no problem whatsoever with that. And I think like a lot of people think, Rollo's, he's on a roll, let him cook. No, man, I love big fake tits. I love thigh gap. Thigh gap is the ultimate test of a woman. Okay. And it's not big booties. It's a thigh gap, ladies. I like athletic builds on women. Simple as that. And I don't care if you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're Latina. I do not care. I'm a equal opportunity sexist. You have one criteria: hot and available. But the truth of it is that if you're earning money off of advertising your sexuality, even if you could be like Farah and pretend that you're a virgin on OnlyFans, and let's just say for sake of argument she's still earning money, and a lot of money, on the appearance and the perception that she's available and she's sexual. So if that's what you're doing and you're making more money doing that than you could if you went to 8 years to become a nursing, surgical nurse or a physician's assistant or PA or whatever it is. I mean, think about some top earning careers that a woman could engage in, even a doctor, even a surgeon. There are women who are making more money off of OnlyFans right now than surgeons, than lawyers. In fact, we even know one, right? We know Jasmine Jafar. She's not a lawyer. She doesn't do. You think she could make the kind of money she makes on OnlyFans as an attorney? And I don't care what kind of. I mean, maybe if she was like a real estate attorney for like the Stars or something. I don't know. Whatever. What's the top earning attorney? I don't know. But I would argue that whatever she could be professionally as an attorney, as a lawyer, she's always going to make more money doing OnlyFans and showing off big fat titties. Same thing with I've run into them. I've been on interviews with them. I've been on Valuetainment and Adam Sosnick's show with women who had gone to 8 years of college to get a degree in nursing and then gave it up because they were making millions off of OnlyFans. So if you have a woman who is making that kind of cash off of her advertising her sexual availability, whether or not you're a prostitute or you're an escort, I don't care what honestly, I at this point in my life, it's like all the pretentious bullshit is like flows right out the window. But the fact is I'm looking at the nuts and bolts and we're looking at the math. I'm going to go full Aaron Clary on here. If you're looking at the mathematics here, the odds are you're not going to find your Richard Gere. You're not going to be Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, okay? Because you will not find a guy who meets all these other criteria. Plus, he makes what you're making and then half again what you're making. And if there is a guy like that, trust me, that guy has got more sexual opportunity than you do because he's that guy. So I think we're really kind of doing you want to know why the birth rate is low? You want to know why marriage rate is low? Because women are holding out for their Richard Gere. They don't want to marry a guy who makes less than them. They don't want to marry. And I fully understand. It's evolution, man. It's just how the female machine was made. It's how it evolved. Same thing with guys. Guys don't want to go with fat chicks. They want to get with hot piece of ass. It's not, well, some guys like fat girls. Yeah, well, very few. And sometimes a rich woman, she might want to get with she might go slumming it, right? She might get with a poor guy, but not want to, just sort of out of necessity has to. So, okay, let's keep going. Hey, Rolo, your thoughts on Alien Romulus? I haven't seen it yet. I will though. And I'm having to like really kind of prevent myself from like looking at the spoilers because they're all over YouTube right now. How about those rebels? Yeah, whatever. I like UNLV too. My daughter graduated from UNLV. She graduated from UNR and UNLV. I'm UNR. So, Wolfpack. Does Evo Psych claim that men are the gatekeepers of long-term commitment? Evo Psych makes no assertions whatsoever like that. Well, because remember, or if it is, you're not talking to somebody who's like a real research person. Okay. While women are the gatekeepers of physical intimacy, no, there's nothing in evolutionary psychology that, to my knowledge, anyways, that makes assertions like that. Because if you're really a research, quote unquote, research scientist, you're doing so. You should be ideally doing so from an objective perspective. Not that anybody does, but is there anything in evolutionary psychology that points in that direction? Not that I'm aware of, but I have said in the past that women are both the gatekeepers of sex and of commitment. And as I said, as I just pointed out a minute ago, because with the Pretty Woman analogy right there, women they don't want to get married. What's funny to me is men get so much grief and so much shit from their sort of moralizing peers. Oh, men need to get better. They need to do better. Why do they need to do better? They need to do better so that they can get in, women can live better lives. And I'm glad you brought that up because I have this right here. Broke men are hurting American women's marriage prospects. Now, this has been out for a while. Remember, this is September. And so I brought this up because this was when I was talking with Pat Campbell. I still have this in sort of my archive here, just so you guys know that this is not some like new thing. But I brought this up with Pat Campbell back in 2019 about how men were not economically attractive. And I wrote several essays about this. I did several podcasts on my own, as well as some with Pat and some of on his radio show as well. And that's where I'm getting the numbers like half again as much. It's actually more than that. According to the stats in 2019, according to articles like that one, you've got a man has to make 68% more than the woman makes herself. So not only like if she's making $70,000 a year, you've got to make $100,000 a year, right? Or more than that. Or if let's say if she's making $100,000 a year, you have to make $168,000 a year to be economically attractive. And that's through polling and whatever else, whatever studies that they were doing. And this is in 2019 too. So your mileage may vary, but But the idea of being economically attractive, and I think what throws people the most, you want to know what throws people off on that whole thing about economic attractiveness and everything, is women will cry a fucking bloody river about how they can't find a man men don't love, they're not emotionally available. Right? You were just saying that a minute ago. They're not emotionally available. They won't commit, blah, blah, blah. No, they will. You just don't want the ones that will. That's the problem. And so it's not guys getting better. There's plenty of guys that are on top of their game. They're just not 68% more on top of their game than she is. And so when you look at stats like that, when you look at especially when I'm looking at podcasts and women saying, "Yeah, men are broke. Where the good guys at, man?" Like that one guy in the very first video where he's talking about, you need to find a man who's like into being a man, and you need to find a woman who's into being a woman. And then the loudmouth, mouthy broad that's sitting next to him, that's exactly, I mean, she's basically just proving his point for him right there. But the thing is the reason why she pipes up like that is because that girl's never going to find the guy who makes 68% more money than she does. That girl's never going to find, and she's not going to live the pretty woman narrative out. She could do what she wants to. I'm empowered. I make my own damn money. Well, good for you. Awesome. Great. You're living like a man, but good for you. Hope you can pull it off. But your pretty woman scenario that's in the back of your mind, whether you know it or not, is not going to play out. Probably not going to play out for you. Michael B. Jordan is not going to be coming and knocking on your door anytime soon to sort of like sweep you off your feet and take you off into perpetuity and have children with you and live happily ever after. Pretty woman, not going to happen. So what are you going to do about it? Well, you're going to do ladies, you're going to do one of two things. Women are going to settle, period. You ladies, you're going to settle. You're going to settle in one of two ways. Well, probably three ways. One of two ways for sure. Okay. First way is this. You're going to live alone, period. You're going to be struggling and wondering. And by the way, there's so many social conventions that are there to convince you that you're going to be just fine. You're going to read article after article about how women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest demographic of women that there could possibly be. And then you'll also read a few interspersed in there about how women who have children more are actually happier than you. Okay. And so that's going to make you feel bad. So you're going to read three more articles that are going to say, well, statistics show that women are happier than ever before. Then you're going to read another article that's going to say women are being prescribed SSRIs, antidepressants, at record rates and have been doing so since 2010. And then you're going to go, well, but I feel better about myself and I can travel and do all these other things and I don't need no man, but I want a man. And you're going to go back and forth through all of these conflicting messages for a very long time. And you know what? The longer you wait and the longer it goes, the settling that you're going to do is you're going to settle on being alone. That's the life. The life you settle for is going to be you not finding that guy. And you know what's going to happen? There's a million other social conventions that are going to be out there to tell you that it's okay. Gentlemen, if you want to make money off of any female demographic, you play on two different things: YOLO and FOMO. You only live once, and fear of missing out. Those two dynamics in women's brains will make you a multi-billionaire. If you can find some sort of product, find some sort of promise, or some self-help thing, or some sort of cosmetics, whatever it is, whatever the new trend is, it's always fear of missing out, and it's you only live once. You use those two to your advantage, and you'll make all kinds of money. Oh, that's evil, Rolo. No, I'm going to tell guys about this in just a minute here. So you're going to settle, ladies. You're going to settle on being alone. You're going to settle on, I mean, I know black pill doomers are going to say, you settle on cats and box wine. Okay, whatever. You're probably not that, but you're going to settle on social conventions and a narrative that says you're in the right and it's okay. And you should feel comfortable and proud of yourself for being alone. At least when men decide to go MGTOW, or they're black pill doomers, or they're literally seriously incels, we look at them with disdain. We look at them with disgust. But if a woman says, you know what, I'm okay by myself, we go, bravo, girl, you go. You're empowered. A man being alone is a piece of shit. A woman being alone is strong and independent. Why is that? Ask yourself why that is. And I'll tell you why that is because there's so many social conventions that are there to convince you that everything is okay. What's a social convention? It's a narrative. Men have fragile egos. What happened to the good men, Rolo? You left them back when you're 20s. Okay. Well, where are they now? How come I can't find a date? You mean I have to dumb myself down so I can be, so these guys will want to date me, blah, blah, blah. Like, the reason why women have this sort of urgency and this anxiety, and the older they get, the more anxious they get, the more anxious they get, the more the necessity is for FOMO and YOLO. The more the necessity is for you're okay, girl. Don't worry. You're independent. You're strong. You're in charge of your world. You have frame. You're in control of your own destiny. You're in control of your own world. We tell men exactly the opposite. If you're not ready, if you're not making enough money, if you're not in shape, if you don't have your shit together, if you don't have this laundry list of prerequisites that any woman would want to make you marriageable, to make you economically attractive, to make you in some way like an eligible bachelor, you have to be Richard Gere in Pretty Woman. And men aren't living up to that right now. And so what happens is every guy who is sort of married or in sort of this moralistic sort of phase in their life, they look at these other guys and go, well, it's because men aren't taking responsibility and men aren't manning up and they're not living up. And they're not going to college and whatever Scott Galloway is talking about recently, right? They will shit all over guys because if that guy is in his mid 30s and he's not married, he's a piece of shit. He's irresponsible. He's a kidult. He's prolonging his adolescence. But we don't say the same thing about a woman who is 35 years old. We go, oh, that poor woman. Well, it's a sign of the times. She can't find a man because men just won't man up. No, it's a combination of both, but we only focus on the male side of all this. So ladies, you're going to settle on being alone, or you're going to settle for a guy who is less than fucking perfect. You're going to settle on a guy who's not Richard Gere. You're going to settle on a guy who doesn't make as much money as you, or he, God forbid, he might make just a parity with you, exactly the same amount of money with you. That's horrible for women because when they get into that marriage and then they find out that if that guy in any way loses his job or gets in some way loses status or whatever, that guy is like, if she's a 6 and he's a 6 and he loses his job, now he's a fucking 4. And she married the 4 and had babies with the 4. You want to know what precipitates divorce more than anything else? It's not money and it's not sex. It's a loss of status. It's a loss of prestige. It's that guy losing his job. Yes, does that associated with marriage and sex? Absolutely it is. But what is the catalyst? What's the precipitator? The guy losing prestige, the guy losing status, the guy losing affluence, losing respect of his peers, losing respect of his woman. That's why it's almost worse to have a woman who's like a 6 and he's a 6, and then he loses his job and now he's a 5 and she's married to the 5. And now she's got to pick up the slack, or she feels like, even if it's not true, the psychological, the evolved mental firmware that is part of a woman's psyche thinks that that's the way it is. You want to know why women initiate 70+% of divorces? That's fucking why. How do you know that, Rolo? Because they do the same thing in same-sex marriages. So if that woman that you want to, they have the highest divorce rate, the highest rate of domestic violence is amongst lesbian couples. Why is that? Because women can't be satisfied. They can't have that security, that long-term security. So you've got a woman she wants alpha fucks and beta bucks, right? Well, what is beta bucks? Beta bucks is just predicated on long-term security. Alpha fucks is sex. Like, she wants to get with the hot guy. She wants to get with the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun on spring break. It's Jason Momoa, it's Justin Waller, it's Jack Reacher. Trying to think of who else is there right now. Scotty Eichler. It's those guys, right? But that's the guys she wants. The guys she doesn't think she needs because she's already got it covered are the guys who aren't going to be as exciting as those dudes are. And so if you want to know why the birth rate is low, if you want to know why the marriage rate is dropping, if you want to, it's not guys not living up to fucking mythological standard or 20th century standards. It's women's standard of acceptance included in all of that. And the problem is we're telling guys that they're the ones that are the problem. And as I said before, if you're listening to any sort of moralistic guy right now who's telling you, well, men need to man up, they need to get back to college, and they need to do this, and they need to do that, and blah, 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 take more responsibility, yada, yada, yada. No, they don't. And you know why? The only reason that you're even saying that is simply because you want to solve women's problems by men getting better. And the reason I'm sort of like cooking on this today is because I just talked about this in one of the Reignite programs. We don't care about guys. We don't care about what their status is. We care about women's status. We care about women's survival. We care about women's long-term security. We care about prospering women, about making women feel like they are independent, but still with a guy, right? They can have it like that one chick who's talking about the Sigma male that chick was talking about, nothing to do with the Sigma whatsoever. She has no earthly clue. She's never even heard of Vox Day, who's the guy who came up with alpha, beta, delta, gamma, omega, and there is no Sigma. But she wants to say, oh, well, a Sigma is an alpha who lets me be a bitch. A Sigma is an alpha that accepts me for like being what I am. Right? I don't have to defer to him. He has no authority over me because he's more in control of his world, and he is more. And you know what? Basically what she's describing is an antisocial alpha. And I keep pointing this out. The difference between alphas, right? There's Captain America and there's Tony Stark, right? There's Iron Man. There's Superman, and then there's Batman. Batman is the Dark Knight. Batman is the Maverick. Batman is the vigilante, right? He's alpha and he cares about people, but he does things his own way. And if he has to kill somebody, he has to beat the hell out of somebody, then that's what he's going to do. Superman is also alpha, but he's a pro-social alpha. Truth, justice, and the American way, right? He cares about people in the collective. He cares about people on a larger scale, but he's the good guy, the stereotypical good guy. Whereas Batman, he's a good guy as well, but he gets things done in unorthodox ways. Those are just two different types of alphas. And so that's really what she's talking about. She wants Tony Stark. She wants Bruce Wayne. She doesn't want, she thinks, that chick thinks that Captain America and Superman are the ones that are going to be like, you need to submit to me. No, you just basically want to create this character or caricature of an alpha that you're going to call a Sigma because you think that guy is going to be that guy's your Richard Gere. That guy is your pretty woman. You've been doing what you want to, and you want to continue being a whore. You want to continue being a hooker with a heart of gold, a smart one, an independent one that a likable one, an agreeable one, a conscientious one, but you're still a prostitute, and you want to get with a guy who's going to allow you to continue to be a prostitute. And again, I'm not trying to channel my inner, Marquette Burton, but I'm just choosing my words here. As I said before, you don't have to be a sex worker. I'm just saying if you're making money off of advertising your sexuality and your sexual availability, people will call you a whore. I'm not calling it. Like I said, I don't have a problem with that. But the thing is that if that's you, you're taking the role. You're wearing hooker's clothes, right? That's Dave Chappelle, I did not say you were a whore, but you are wearing a whore's uniform. If you're wearing a whore's uniform, don't be surprised when people think of you as Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. So this chick's, Batman or her Tony Stark or Iron Man is the guy who's going to allow her to still be a high paid escort, but is still going to be okay with that. So, but the problem is like any guy that would allow that is not going to, by definition, be the kind of guy that she would want to get with in the first place, because if he'll allow that, he'll allow anything, or he'll fuck anything, right? Women want to think that they're exclusively, one way or another. So anyways, that's my very long-winded way of telling you about Evosite. Thanos, I don't need coaching. I just need Red Pill. Yeah, you need Tribe, man. And we got that for you. That's already covered. Men as per the Coolidge effect are genetically wired for a variety in terms of physical intimacy. Yeah. Are women genetically wired to be gold diggers? Yes. Well, okay. Women are genetically wired to be opportunists. Put it that way. I'm not going to use the term gold diggers because that's like, it's overplayed. If you would like me to tell you what my definition of a gold digger is, I'd be happy to. But in fact, I will here in just a second. But women are most definitely opportunistic. If you have, dude, I'm sure you, MCD, I'm sure you have read The Rational Male. I'm sure you're aware of, was it Iron Rule of Tomasi number 6, right? Which is women fundamentally lack the capacity to love a man in the way that a man expects that she should be able to love him. Again, it goes back to the idea that men love idealistically, women love opportunistically. I'm the one who said that back in really 2007, but it's been in the book since 2013. Anytime you hear somebody using those terms or like coming up with that concept or thinking that they're on something really super profound, just know that that's Iron Rule of Tomasi number 6 in the book and has been around for going on 20 plus years. Okay. Men love idealistically. And we need to focus on that first because men believe that love matters for the sake of love. They want to say, well, if the right girl will love me no matter what. And I don't mean unconditionally. Most men realize that they got to be on top of their game. That's why just be yourself has never really sat well with most guys. Unless they're like really pathetic betas. Okay. So men tend to love idealistically. We want to believe that love matters for the sake of love. She's going to love me, right? Well, and sometimes we'll think that, especially guys who are more sort of fixated on transaction, and that's what we're going to talk about today is transactional love versus validational love, or transactional sex versus validational sex. But if your only frame of reference for sexuality or your only frame of reference for intimacy and love is exchange, then a gold digger is just a more open and obvious woman who is opportunistic. All women are opportunists. Women love opportunistically. Women will not allow themselves to make an emotional investment in a man unless certain criteria are made. We were just talking about this. Like in some cases, that criteria might be the guy has to make 68% more money than she does. Is that true of all women? No, but it's in the realm. It's in the same ballpark. Well, Rolo thinks that I earn 68, 70% rounded off, 70% more than I do. That's so false. My man doesn't earn that. I'm like, yeah, which is why you're probably not going to be with that man for very much longer or whatever. Or there has to be some value added asset or characteristic or attribute that guy has that offsets that. So, for example, and I will die on this fucking hill, okay? Because I've been this guy. For hell, I'm the drummer in my band, Jake Cope, looking at you, is this guy right now. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It really doesn't. There are women that love Jake, and Jake is just like, living on a prayer, man. They like the song, man. He living on a prayer, like go paycheck to paycheck. I'm trying to help him out. I'm trying to put him into the right places. I'm trying to get him paid. I want to, at some point, once Reignite really sort of takes off, I will probably make Jake my PA, but that time is not now. He's a very talented drummer. I need to keep him around. I'm happy to help him out just because I know I need Jake, and I like him. He's a good dude, but he's not paid. But the dude gets pussy like you would not believe. And I know who he's been with. Let's just put it that way. And does not need a lot of money. In fact, I have been Jake, by the way. That's why maybe that's one of the reasons I like Jake so much. In my 20s, I had I lived in a 1-bedroom studio apartment with a mini fridge. My dining room table was a spool, as I said before, like one of those wood, like what they like road construction, like wraps the like cables around this big wooden spools. And so that was like my dining room table. And then, a box spring and a mattress, no bed, no frame, just a box spring and a mattress. And I will tell you right now, at the poorest I've ever been, I had a 1979 Toyota pickup with no tailgate, which, by the way, was the car that I met my wife in, the woman who would be my wife. And I had a Randall half stack, and I had 2 guitars, and I had my pedal effects. Those are my liquid assets. in my mid to late 20s, right? Well, early to mid late 20s. And I will tell you right now, when I was at my poorest was when I had my most sexual opportunity. And because women didn't care. They didn't care if they knew that was part of the deal. So there had to be something that would offset the fact that, well, okay, he doesn't have a lot of money, but he's got a 10-inch dick, right? But he looks good. He's a rock star. He's in a band. He's a struggling musician. He's a struggling artist. He's whatever, right? So there's kind of like, as I said, women will gaslight themselves. They're really good at gaslighting themselves. And what do they gaslight themselves about the most? Value added propositions. Well, I know he doesn't make as much money as I do, and he's working at Guitar Center or Doctor Music or wherever. He's trying though. He's gonna be something. He's got potential, and when he becomes a rock star, I want to be right there with him. Or I have known women who they're attractive, don't get me wrong, but they make a good chunk of change in a particular profession, and I'm not going to mention which one it is, but I've known women in a particular profession, let's just say a medical profession, and make a good chunk of change, and they're good looking, but they're not like FHM models, and they're not like, there's not the chicks that you would see necessarily at like Babes in Toyland or something like that. They're still attractive, very, very attractive, but not as attractive as like sort of like, the bikini model attractive, but they have really hot, like snowboarder, surfer boyfriends who don't make a lot of money, smoke a lot of weed, and don't really have much ambition in their lives, but they live with their girlfriend because the girlfriend pays the rent, the girlfriend pays the food, the girlfriend pays for weed, the girlfriend pays for whatever. Like maybe he's a starving artist or a starving musician or something like that. Hell, that's how Motley Crue got started. Vince Neil had a girlfriend who had a lot of money, who just basically liked fucking him, not because like he had nothing to his name, and made a shit ton of money, later on, of course, in Motley Crue. But there was a lot. I knew tons of people back in the late 80s, early 90s in the Hollywood metal scene, like tons of guys who were doing exactly the same thing I was doing, except I was actually probably a little more paid than they were because I could afford at least a rent on a one bedroom studio apartment. But it had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to, and it had like, you don't have to have money to have status. You can have a really good talent. You can be on top. You can be on a stage. You can be in some way locally famous. There's lots of ways to achieve status and prestige that have nothing to do with money, and that you'll get laid. You will get laid as a result of that. But going anywhere beyond that might be a little bit more difficult. Like if you want to have some sort of super long-term relationship, but most of those guys that these women who would get attached to, they knew they were losers, but they were fun, exciting losers that like dickmatized them and fucked the living bejesus out of them. And they loved that because there's no way that on any normal circumstances, if they're finding a guy who had a lot of money and looked as good, though, those guys didn't want to have anything to do with those girls. And you'll still see the same thing today. So, so as far as gold diggers are concerned, no, not all women are gold diggers, but all women are opportunists when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to sex, when it comes to love. Okay. But remember that opportunism isn't necessarily defined by economics, by finances. That opportunism could be like, I will never have another, like it could be sexual opportunism. Like I keep saying, like hypergamy cannot afford to miss out on a prime opportunity to get fucked or fuck an alpha guy. That's the whole premise behind the hot guy in the foam cannon party on spring break in Cancun. He was hot, you were drunk, and one thing led to another. That's the premise behind all of that. That guy doesn't have to be in finance, 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, whatever the fuck it is, right? He doesn't have to have that. He just has to be in the right place at the right time, look good, and be a good sexual opportunity. You want to know how one-night stands happen? That's how they happen. Oh, I wouldn't want to have meaningless sex. There's no such thing as meaningless sex. Nothing whatsoever. Do you know who came up with meaningless sex? Women who regretted having sex with a guy, because women regret sex more. Men regret the sex that they don't have. Women regret the sex that they do have. But it's actually, meaningless sex is made up by moralistic guys who don't fuck, because they think that any sex that they're having has got to be more meaningful because they're not getting it as much. And so it must be quantity and quality. right? So if you're having quantity, a lot of sex, it's got to be meaningless sex. Why? Why does it have to be meaningless sex? Just because you get laid a lot, that necessarily means that you're having meaningless sex. No, it doesn't. Every single one, like if you have like a guy who's got a 100 lay count, and you've got a guy who's got like a 5 lay count. The guy who's got the 5 lay count thinks that he's having better, more meaningful, more impactful, more cosmically significant sex on some sort of universal cosmic scale, right? Well, of course it does, but it means more to him because he doesn't get fucking laid as much as the guy who has 100 girls that he in his notch count. So of course it's going to be more meaningful to him. It has to be. It has to be more meaningful to him. But that doesn't mean that the guy who has like sex with 100 girls, that he didn't have some sort of, some sort of connection with more than half of them. I don't know. But the thing is the guys will come up with those. They have to come up with that because meaningless sex is cope. That's what it is. Like, I wouldn't want to be like those guys. They have meaningless sex. It's only meaningful to you because you get it so fucking rarely. It's going to be more meaningful. Of course it will be. If you were a guy that had, if you had 2 guys that are both getting they're both getting 100, they both have 100 lay count. The guy who's saying, I wouldn't want to be like this guy because he's got 100, same notch count as I do. He's having meaningless sex. Like, no, you don't hear those arguments between guys like that because they don't care. It's like there's just as meaningful as the next guy. So like the idea of meaningless sex is it's cope and it's bullshit. And I'll tell you, want to know why it's bullshit? Because women love opportunistically and guys love idealistically. That's why it is more meaningful to those guys, because most men don't have the same sexual opportunities that the average woman does. Like when, like, especially in an age of like the global sexual marketplace right now, women have way more sexual opportunity than men do. That's why they make so much money off of advertising their sexuality and their availability. So yeah, of course, of course, it's going to seem more meaningful to the guy who's not getting laid. The guy who doesn't fuck, sex is like this it's fucking manna from heaven. Are you kidding? I'm sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the guy who's having has got a 30 notch count is having all 30 of them were meaningless. I meant to fuck every girl I ever fucked. This is ridiculous. Is boredom an evolved emotion to stimulate men and women to find mates, which would have the effect of stimulating the genetic diversity? Boredom doesn't necessarily have to be about sex. Honestly, I would say I don't necessarily. I mean, it can be. Boredom is not even. Is boredom even an emotion? I think maybe it is. Sort of the feeling of boredom, I guess, would be. Like boredom, I would wonder where they would put that in the base emotions, because boredom, I think, is it's not a base emotion. It's a layered emotion. It's a complicated emotion. It mixes other of the base ones. Like happiness is a base emotion. Anger is a base emotion. Boredom, I don't think, is a base emotion, but I think that the feeling of it is like any other emotion, meant to like prompt an individual to go from one state to another. In fact, it's easy when it comes to boredom, because you're like, I'm bored. Let's go do something. What do you want to fucking do? I don't know. Let's go rob a bank. Boredom can be about sex. It can be about like, let's do something. Let's go. It could be about a hobby, right? It could be about, let's go fishing. That's better than fucking sitting around here doing nothing all day. Right. So I don't think it necessarily has to be about genetic diversity or anything like that. I think it has more to do with actually going and being productive. It might have more to, honestly, I think boredom probably has more to do with survival than it does with reproduction. Because you got to remember that emotions are meant to prompt us from one state to another. And that prompt is usually for one of 2 reasons. It's either survival or it's reproduction. Could it be reproduction? Yeah, but I think more often than not, it's probably about survival, meaning like, let's go out and I'm so bored, let's go do something. And in the doing, maybe you learn how to build a house, and therefore the next time a hurricane flows through or a storm comes through, then you're going to be nice and hot and dry and whatever. And I think boredom probably prompts more people to like survival skills than it does reproductive skills, which of course survival skills can be, of course, an attractant. So it might serve 2 purposes. But yeah, I don't know. I love how like you like carry it from like one like base question to like And this is why we have low IQ in third world countries. No. Oh, why don't men have a brotherhood uber alles? Because we are competitive with each other. Men aren't built that way. We have solidarity. We can have, like, there's more male team sports than there are female team sports. Or I should say that there are more effective male teams than there are female teams because women tend to infight. Men tend to be more individualist. Women tend to be more collectivist. So, but in doing so, the thing is like human males, human primates in general, have to compete for mates. So how do they do that? Well, we have to be somewhere on that hierarchy. So when we're talking about like how men organize society and how women organize society, women tend to organize society collectively. They have to. They're the weaker, vulnerable sex. They have to rely on group dynamics for survival. Men do too, but less so than women. And when men are competing for reproductive access, that's why we have hierarchies. That's what makes us respectable. You want to know why respect is a gendered concept? For women, respect is about like, oh, one for you, and everybody deserves respect. It's like participation trophy respect. Whereas for men, it's what do you do? How do you perform? What have you done? What have you achieved? What are your accomplishments that make you respectable? And again, that's why it's much more difficult. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. Obviously, there's teams, there's armies, there's tribes, whatever it is. So there's cooperation. It's human beings are altruistic, kin altruism, and are definitely team players, are definitely tribal. But if you're going to compare the two between men and women, women are way more tribalist, or more, let's just say, collectivist, communitarianism, rather than men who tend to be more competitive, because we're competing for access to better mates. That's why. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're assholes or we can't like cooperate. We do. But if you're comparing the two, then you're going to look and see that men tend to be more hierarchical. And that's why it's a little more difficult for men to form solidarity in tribes than it is for women. Women always have one thing. They're the life givers. They're the ones, like I was just looking at this on study that Rob Henderson posted about like 3 weeks ago. And it was how women tend to be more prone to Stockholm syndrome, like, which is they fall in love with their captors. There was also part of that research was doing comparisons between different cultures. One of them was early American settlers, where like the settlers would get wiped out by American Indians, like Native Americans. But they would, of course, like any males, would go and they would keep the hot young white women for themselves and integrate them into the tribe. And then when other colonists came and wiped out the tribe, or they would try to rescue those women from the tribe, they didn't want to leave. They liked where they were. They were okay with being the sort of they were integrated into the female collective of the Native American tribe, right? And so they didn't want to leave that actual tribe, even though there's, white settlers wanted to sort of rescue them from these savage red men, right? And that was just one incident of many where women get integrated into a tribal society, and primarily because they get into a communitarianism, or a community of women that are there and they're mutually supportive, because they were probably former slaves or former spoils of war themselves. So they get into the tribe, and they have no one else but themselves to sort of rely upon, and that's what forms community. That's what you want to know why women have more social networks than men. Like in a divorce, one of the prime dangers for men is like men isolate. They don't talk to anybody else. They don't have tribes to fall back on. You want to know why, like, the incidence of self-deletion for guys who are fresh out of a divorce is 8 times higher than for women. Why? Because women have better social networks, because women are communitarian. Men are not. We're hierarchical. That's why you want to know why that's one of the primary focuses of Reignite. Like, you want to know why I tagged it at like 40 plus. The 45 to 65 demographic is the prime demographic for male self-deletion. Why is that? Because that's the time you're probably going to lose your job. That's probably the time, which is going to, of course, then cause this cascade effect. She files for divorce. You're 8 times more likely to off yourself. You're already 4.5 times, maybe 5 times more likely to off yourself, even if you are married. between 45 and 65 years old as a guy. God forbid you're single. I don't know what the stats are for that, but just like in general, men are at least 4 times as likely to off themselves as women are, and then 8 times more likely if they're coming out of a divorce. Well, why isn't it 8 times as likely for women? Because they have social networks, because they have their psyches are based around communitarianism, whereas men is based on not so much like isolation, but sometimes that's what they feel like they have to do. I saw this guy. This was funny. This guy, it was a tweet. Some chick was saying, how come men don't talk about their feelings? They're so emotionally unavailable. The patriarchy has brainwashed them into being these emotionally stunted, Quasimodo mongoloids or something like that. And the response from this one guy was like, we do talk about our emotions. It's just nobody gives a fuck. No one fucking cares. It's not that like guys don't want to talk about stuff, or guys don't have, aren't emotionally available or aren't vulnerable or whatever. It's like when they do talk about those feelings, nobody gives a flying fuck. That's why. Oh, how come men don't talk about their feelings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'd tell you what's funny is like whenever I brought this up, I brought up the stats about male suicide. And if I do so like sort of in a public setting, and by the way, I am aware of the Jubilee video. I think I might even comment on that a little bit. I have it loaded up here. But in the very beginning of this Jubilee discussion between men's rights activists and feminists, which is stupid. Like, we did this before and now we're doing it again. And it's like, you got Pearl on there. You got Jasmine Jafar on there. Like, can you like at some point acknowledge the fact that you guys look like limp dicks because you haven't got me or Mike Sartain on here? Like, they've had Myron Gaines on there. They've had Justin Waller's been on there. This is probably the second or third time Pearl's been on. These are the people like you have on speed dial. Like, oh, we're gonna do a show on men's rights. Pearl, really? Okay. And I'm not even an MRA, but one of the things they were talking about was suicide and male suicide and the rates and everything. And right on fucking, I knew it was going to happen too, because it's Jubilee, but I knew it was going to happen right on cue. So fucking predictable. Yeah, but women attempt suicide more than men. Men just get well, bravo. Yeah. So you're saying is that women want attention and they want the same victimhood that those horrible men are getting by actually going through with it, but we want a little bit of that emotional action. Really. I love it when that happens, because whenever you bring up, there's 2 topics you can't bring up on like a show like this. One is the suicide rate for men, because there's no getting around it, and there's no getting around the fact that we ignore it. And there's no getting around the fact that it's the catalysts for it are usually caused by women. There's no getting around the fact that that women are more communitarian, men tend to be more hierarchical, and then men tend to isolate. Women tend to they have greater social networks, and because they're women, not because of like they're stunted in their emotions or they're emotionally unavailable. Men are emotionally unavailable. We just don't have the networks. And we don't think to develop the networks because we're much more competitive. And it also reflects on the fact that we've been isolating men, that we want men not to get together. We want men to not form tribes. We want men not to work in any collective way, like the brotherhood uber alles. That is like the nightmare of a gynocentric social order, is men actually getting together and having solidarity with other men. And so we will do any kind of social institution. We'll find any way, like any kind of social conventions that anything that isolates guys, anything that atomizes like masculinity and men in general, is always promoted. That's why I always said, like, we don't celebrate. I said this on Dr. Phil. I said, we never celebrate masculinity unless it looks like femininity, unless it's a guy and his son in ballerina dresses, unless it's The Rock wearing a tutu in The Tooth Fairy. Then we celebrate it. Oh, bravo, we love The Rock. Yeah, because it looks like feminism. It looks like femininity. You'll never see Jason, is it Jason Statham or yeah, whatever, being lauded for a masculine, like a tough guy role. You'll never see that. You will never see conventional masculinity praised in any way, shape, or form, but we're supposed to say that, oh, there's no such thing as a male space, or male space is so cringe, right? Well, the reason why you say that is because you don't want men to organize. Because when men get together and they're united in purpose, there is no fucking stopping them. They know this. The gynocentric social order understands this. That's why they will do everything in their power to make sure that guys don't get together. Well, so when we start talking about things that are like unique to the male experience, and there's no getting around it, right? The male self-deletion rate is one of those things that you just can't get around. So what do? We add caveats to it. We say, oh, well, but about women actually attempt it more, but they don't actually do it more, blah, blah, blah. Or it's, well, if men weren't taught by a patriarchal social order, then they would be more sensitive and they would seek help, and that we need to focus on men's mental health. And I love it when they bring this shit up. Oh, men's mental health. What the fuck are you doing about men's mental health? We hear this constantly. I remember as far back as when Anthony Bourdain often hung himself. You know what the first thing they said? Oh, we need better men's mental health. No, we need dumb bitches like fucking Asia Argento not pulling the shit that she does with a guy who is clearly wearing his heart on his sleeve. That's what we need to start with. And now here we are in 2024. There's a new documentary that just came out, like I think earlier this year, about all of the stuff that led up to Anthony Bourdain's, like, right? And now we're okay. Nobody, like, you probably didn't even, I'm probably telling you this for the first time. I remember when I think it was in May when it came out. I talked about it a little bit, but the reason why I didn't go into too much details is because I talked it to death back in the day when me and Pat Campbell talked about this. So I brought this up, and everybody says, oh, it's not her fault. Even fucking Rose McGowan was jumped right out in front of it. It's not because of Asia Argento. He was on Xanax. We need to focus on men's mental health. What the fuck have you been doing about men's mental health since 2018 when Anthony Bourdain hung himself? Nothing. Jack fucking shit. That's what you've done. You want to know why I started Reignite? To do something, to actually do something, instead of going on some show and going, we need to talk about men's mental health again, and then walk off the show and go back into jerking off or whatever it is that you're doing on your podcast studio. You're not doing shit. I am. I'm going out there and doing. That's exactly why I targeted 45 to 65 as the prime demographic for Reignite. That's why we're doing this. That's why I'm getting a network. Oh, guys don't have networks. Guys don't talk about shit. Guys are emotionally unavailable. Guys don't have tribes. Guess what? And when we do it, Rollo Tomasi ends up on a DHS fucking watch list. When I do it, my fucking traffic gets throttled back by an NGO, like Diverting Hate NGO. When I actually go out and do shit, doing more shit than stuff like than idiots like hair fucking man bun bullshit like Justin Baldini. When I do more than that, nobody says jack shit. Nobody invites me on fucking Jubilee to talk about this stuff because they know they get their asses handed to them. And it's going to get to the point, and Mike Sartain told me this too, he says it's going to get to the point where it's going to look bad that they're not having us on there. It's going to look really obvious. Like Chris Williamson hasn't had me on. He's had fucking Destiny on there 3 fucking times. Oh, Rollo, you're just professionally jealous. I don't give 2 flying fucks about that faggot. You know who I care about? I care about the guys that are in my program. I care about the tribe. But they don't want to hear it, because guys getting together collectively, together, organizing in solidarity, they are terrified, absolutely terrified of it. That's why I'm on a DHS watch list. That's why they think I'm radicalizing incels. That's why I end up on the NGO, the Diverting Hate NGO, because if I do that and guys organize and guys actually vote, it screws them. It screws them ideologically. So yeah, what do you got here? My girl's obsessed with me. Good, but she gives me attitude when she doesn't get her way. What should I do? Let her not get her way. My girl's obsessed with me, but she gives me attitude when she doesn't get her way. What should I do? You needed to double that up? Okay. The worst thing I'm going to quote Pook here. The worst thing you can do for a woman is give her everything she wants. Women have to and by the way, even if you did give her everything, you're never going to make her happy. It is not your responsibility to make a woman happy. It is not your responsibility as a man you don't owe women a better life. Period. Keep that in mind the whole time. What should you do? So she doesn't get her way. The reason why she gets all but is she still obsessed with you? Is she still fucking you? Is she still laughing with you? She's still making out with you? She's still obsessed with you even afterwards? It's probably because you don't let her get her way. I realize that seems counterintuitive, but that's really the truth. Women say they'd rather be single and happy. Cope. Yes, they do. Well, here's a problem. Here's a problem with that is women don't know what happiness is. Men don't either, but women in particular, because women believe that happiness is an end state goal. It's something that it could be perpetuated. They think that, and I hate this because even I even catch guys who I have a lot of respect for, like Rob Henderson, right? Talking about, well, women's happiness has declined since. Like, you probably hear these all the time. It doesn't even necessarily have to be specific to like having kids or being married or whatever. They'll say, well, women report being less happy in 2024 than they were in 2004, whatever. I'm like, who fucking cares? Because if you are using long-term happiness as a metric for quality of life, if you're using the concept of a sustainable, manageable, continuous state of fucking happiness as your metric for contentment, get the fuck out of here. I hope you're not happy. And that's the best hope I can give you. I hope you're not happy, because that discontentment and that lack of happiness motivates you to become something better, to grow, to be something more. Because if that were the case, if you were like in this perpetual state of nirvanic bliss where you didn't have to do jack shit, you were constantly, you know what that's called? That's being sedated. You can do that right now. Let's go take SSRIs, man. Let's go. You want to know why women are on, prescribed antidepressants at just sky high rate? I don't know if I have the stats on tap here, but why are they being prescribed at record rates? I mean, what is it like? I mean, forget I have a graph for the increase over time, but I don't know what actually it is right now, but it's like one in 4 women is on like antidepressants right now, or 3 in every 4. Like it's pretty freaking high, man. Women are on meds right now. You know why they're being prescribed to be on meds? Because they can't find happiness. The happiness, they would rather. Why do women drink more? And that's definitely, I can show you the stats on that. Women drink more now. Women smoke weed more. And God damn it, ladies, get the fuck off the weed. Right? Why do women smoke weed so much these days? I'll tell you why. Because they can't find a man. Because they can't find a guy who will fit into that role. They can't find happiness, long-term happiness. You know why? Because they've been sold this bill of goods from the time they were like 5 years old, that happiness in a sustainable goal state form is a possibility, and it simply is not. Happiness is an emotion. It's an emotion that's meant to prompt you from one state to another state. Anytime somebody shows me these stats about like, oh, women are more or less happy in 2024 than they were in 2004, I'm like, good. I'm glad they are less happy. You know why? Because that means they're motivated to do something different. Maybe they'll actually go, maybe they'll fucking through that unhappiness and that discontent, maybe they'll learn that happiness shouldn't be the metric for the quality of their fucking lives. And you know what? I get really pissed off at really good, well-meaning evolutionary psychologists do this all the time. Happiness this, happiness that. Happiness as a metric for quality of life is horse shit. Anyone telling you that it is selling you something. And usually it's drugs. Usually it's some form of sedation. Usually it's some sort of social convention that's meant you that wants to convince you that you can actually live this blissful, contentment life for the rest of your life. Get the fuck out of here. God forbid I'm ever happy. The minute you can look in the mirror and be happy with what you see, you're fucking sunk. You're done. There's always room for improvement. There's always something there. There's always another mountain to climb. There's always another achievement. There's always another degree. There's always another fucking work of art to create. There's always something else. This is great, but I think I can do better. God forbid I'm ever content. Discontent defines the human condition. And when we tell women that you can be content, that you're in some way a deviant, you have some sort of sickness, you have some sort of disease, you have some sort of disability because you can't be permanently happy all the time, you know what they resort to? SSRIs, alcohol, weed, maybe worse, or gaslighting themselves that it's the reason why they can't find that happiness state and that sustainable, perpetual happiness state is because men won't cooperate with them. Feminism would be so great if we could just get these guys to just fucking cooperate. If we could just, and by the way, the same guys who are throwing the same moralist dudes, men, who are coming down on guys, especially in the manosphere, especially in these fucking incels and everybody else, they're coming down on these guys because they believe that men as a whole owe women a better life. Okay, what's that better life look like? Contentment, long-term perpetuated sustainable happiness. Get the fuck out of here. Go to fucking hell. Stop it. You want to know why do we have such a low fertility rate, Rolla? What's the marriage rate, the divorce rate, this rate, that? You know where it comes from? It comes from the stupid idea that men are responsible for women's long-term happiness, that we owe them this, and through some miracle of God or some sort of, some sort of debt that we owe them, that we need to give women restoration. Like women need like recompense and restoration. That's why I always say that, feminism was never about equality. It's also always been about restitution and retribution. It still is to this day. So yeah, there's no such thing as long-term happiness. And I know, Rolla said there's no such thing as happy. No, you can be happy. You can do happy. You can't be happy. You're not going to, once I get this degree and once I get this thing, I'm going to do, let's see, Cappy, I'm going to do Aaron Clary right now. If I get my degree, I'll be happy. No, you won't. Even if you get a doctorate, you're going to go, now I need something else. I need another doctorate. Now I need this. Now I need that. And good. That's a feature, not a bug. I hope you are discontent, please. I'm looking for a life with 10 cats, box wine, TikTok, a disillusionment. 10 cats. I'm looking for a girl with big tits. No gag reflex. Is eating box good? Mate guarding for betas. Would you like me to read you the study? I would be happy to read you that study. Since you asked, and I think I have it on tap here, our good friend Rob Henderson actually came up with this. Here we go. Perfect. Here you go. Rob Henderson. This is from a Cambridge University study. Men using cunnilingus, eating box. Okay, for those of you not fluent in Latin, cunnilingus as a way to manipulate their mates and retain their mates. Men may suspect that if their partner is deciding to leave them, it may behoove them to perform sexual behaviors such as cunnilingus, not a word banned by YouTube, that they normally would not engage in. I don't know about you, but I normally engage in it. Okay, that's number one. Here's from the same one. This is also from the same study. Engagement in oral sex suggests that it is a common human behavior. 67% of straight women reported receiving oral sex from their partner. Whereas 99% of them reported performing oral sex on their partner. I'll let you parse out who the partner is in that situation. But yeah. Is it mate guarding? It can be. That's why, by the way, that's what I brought up with Myron back in the day. Because what was it? Because stupid ass Chris Williamson said that one of those red pill guys was saying that it's beta male behavior to go down on your girlfriend. No, that was Myron Gaines. You will never hear Rollo Tomasi, Sterling Cooper, Mike Sartain, trying to think who else. Certainly not Justin Waller. You will never hear any of those other than one that I'm aware of. And even then, like, I think Myron sort of like put a caveat in all this. I can't think of too many guys that would not want to go down on their girlfriend or their wives. I happen to be very good at it. So I'll just leave it at that. But Rolo, women are crushing it right now, according to Professor Galloway. Of course they are. It serves his purpose. What is Professor Galloway selling you? Professor Galloway is selling you the responsibility of giving women a better life. That's what he's doing. All you got to do is just listen to the message. Like after this show, what I want you to do is listen to these guys with a critical ear now. Right? What do you got here? Rolo, I went to a cottage. I went to a cottage of friends. I drank a bit too much. Told a guy, have my baby, and we laughed it off. Told his wife the same under the influence, and now I have no friends. Okay. Well, do you want me to talk to them to be your friend again? Asking this as I want your thoughts. Okay. Are there gay alphas and gay betas? Yes. How does that work? Also, does Rolo like Florida death metal? Absolutely, I do. Oh, what is it? Vermithrax. Vermithrax is, I don't know if you're familiar with that band, but they're a Florida death metal. They're more like thrash maybe, but Florida metal, Vermithrax is a great fucking band. And yes, I realize it's the name of the dragon in Dragon Slayer. But to get to your point, are there gay alphas and gay betas? Yes, absolutely. There's also lesbian alphas and lesbian sort of betas. There's, the thing that's interesting about this is like human dynamics doesn't change depending on sexual orientation. Okay. Or whatever we're calling. I don't know what the non-wokesy based way of saying this is right now. Whatever is appropriate. Caveat, whatever is appropriate. No, because what happens is you've got a top and a bottom. You've got a dom and a sub. And that always happens in any relationship with, especially with like you see the butch bull dyke girl, and then you see like the more submissive, like the femme and the dom, right? Same thing with guys. There's the guy who's the top, and the guy who's the pitcher, and the guy who's the catcher, right? And they tend not to like swap role. You won't see too much egalitarianism in homosexual relationships, male or female for that matter. You will always see the dominant and the submissive role between those two. That's why, but I brought this up on, people hate it when I bring this up too. Because like women go, it should be 50-50. Men should be 50% and men should be. No, it doesn't work that way. No. Go ask your gay friends if it's 50-50. It's not. There's always a dom and there's always a sub. There's never a 50-50. Only on TV, only on Netflix, only when they create unnecessarily gay characters do those characters conform to an egalitarian marriage. There's usually a dom and there's usually a sub, and it's usually based on personality. And the dom tends to be more testosterone fueled. It tends to be the masculine one. It's way more obvious. I mean, you could probably see it in male homosexuals, but like in lesbian couples, it's way obvious who's the short-haired kind of I'm a girl, GURL, right? And again, no, do what you want, ladies. I don't give two flying fucks about it. It doesn't bother me, but there's always the butch masculine partner, and then there's the femme partner. There's the top and there's the bottom. So yes, are there alphas and are there betas in homosexuality? Well, there's definitely doms and subs in those. And so if you're going to say, well, the alpha is the more dominant one and the beta is the more submissive one, then yeah, you're absolutely right. Because it's a human dynamic. Doesn't have anything to do with like who you're like what the plumbing looks like. Human beings are human beings. Have the EvoSite community or intellectual manosphere congratulated you on being right on dual mating? No, not yet. I'm still waiting for my fucking dual mating award. Do you think you get the respect you deserve? I don't rightly care about, like, respect is only valuable if it's coming from people whose respect I would value in the first place. And for the most part, I don't respect any of these guys. Their purpose is not to get to objective truth. Their purpose is to shit all over the red pill. It's entirely ideological. And by the way, it's not even implicit bias. It's explicit bias. There's just no getting around it right now. I mean, it has been so like if I was talking about the individuals that I think you're talking about, and we only knew about them for the last 6 months, I might have a different opinion, but we're talking years now. And basically they dedicate everything. And I'm going to make a prediction here, MCD. My prediction is this: is that once we're out of the election cycle, all these guys are going to dry up and blow away. You got to remember that guys like Date Psych, and I don't know about Mac and Murphy, but guys like Date Psych, even Dr. Buss, they had dating services that were failed dating services. Go look at Alex from Date Psych. He's got a dating site. People want to throw shit at me for like, so well, these guys just want to sell their dating books and their sites and blah blah blah, and they'll just come up with anything. I don't have a fucking mating site or whatever it is that I don't have that. He does. So what the fuck are we talking about here, right? Dr. David Buss had his own dating site that failed. He tried to launch it in 2020, and he just this year, 2024, decided to delete the fucking website. Maybe they didn't even think about it, but it was up for a while. And by the way, the Twitter that was the accompanying social media that went with that dating site that's now defunct is still there. It's called, what the heck is it called? Something Friends or something like that. I can't remember. I'll look it up for you. But the Twitter for that data for Dr. David Buss's site is still up. So when people go, well, Rollo, why do you think that it's some sort of conspiracy and these guys are trying to fucking turn a buck? I'm like, because I don't have a site that fucking does like a matchmaking site. These guys do. Both of them do. I sell a book, man. I've been selling the same book for like over 10 years, man. You know what you're getting with me. These guys, you don't know what you're getting. And it's like, it just fucking drives me fucking nuts. Respect is only like, remember what I said about like when it comes to male respect, it has to be based on like performance. Like men have a burden of performance. You want to know we're masculine, meritorious. I love that word. Meritocracy. Meritorious respect comes from people saying, what do you do that I should respect you for? And usually it's maybe you've got a talent, maybe you're good at a particular sport, maybe you're good at whatever it is that you do, what you have a natural ability for. Maybe you write books, maybe you're good at the gym, maybe whatever it is, right? I respect the fuck out of like Hide Yamagishi. I respect the fuck out of like the guys that I work out with. And that's just in one realm, right? Because I see what they've done. I want to do that too. Like, have you seen that meme where it's like the girl, I think it's a Wojak meme. It's like where the girl goes and she looks at some like really hot bitch in a bikini. She goes, men have unrealistic expectations of sexuality. I will never look like that. Oh my gosh, it's so photoshopped, blah, blah, blah. And then the Wojak sees the guy who's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's all yoked and everything. He's like, I must be like him. I must get to the gym. I must eat nothing but broccoli and chicken. And I must shoot trend, whatever. Like the motivate, like the reaction is completely different. Like guys look at other dudes and they respect. Like when I see, like I've got a friend of mine, his name is Alvaro Pena, and he's a bodybuilder, and I sometimes work out with him at Powerhouse Gym in Las Vegas, and he's competed in fitness competitions, bodybuilding competitions. And is a trainer, and the guy, I've seen his fat pictures and I've seen like where he is right now, like his before and after. And it's fucking incredible transformation. And I respect that. I'm like, fuck man, props to you, man. I want that kind of body type. I want those fucking flared lats that he's got, I gotta work on my back just so I can fucking like get something even remotely close. Now I'm 56. He's probably like in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. Right. But like I look at that and I go, I must be like him. Like that's my first reaction is not like, oh, I'll never look like that. I'm just gonna give up. No, it's like I must look like that. That's respect. And by the way, if he were to say, hey man, I really respect what you do on Access Vegas, I would take that as a compliment. But it just depends on what it's from and who it's coming from. I know you say it's important to keep the red pill. How hard is it to keep the red pill non-racial and non-political when it's so political grifters and race grifters in this space? There's so many. When it's so many political grifters and well, as I said before, Lucky, that's just the nature of the game. This is exactly the same thing happened in 2016. It's funny because I'm like reconnecting right now with Milo Yiannopoulos because they like let him back on Twitter so I can like DM him and I can actually talk to Milo again. And we talk about like what things were like in 2015 and 2016, because that's when he was on top of his game, was really during that election cycle when he was hitting his prime, hanging out with Ann Coulter and going on, MSNBC and going on like CNN and shit like that. And I'm not saying that that's like, oh, it's great, but I'm just saying like he was doing that shit. And all the players who were like sort of part of that machine back then, like they're nobody now, or maybe they're trying to sort of rekindle something. Like Mike Cernovich still thinks he's like fucking Mike Cernovich of like 2016, and he's not. But it comes in cycles and it comes in waves. And so, like I said before, and I will say it one more time, is that the red pill needs to stay underground. Why? Well, because it's more effective underground. When it becomes something that's sort of like public domain, when it becomes something that's in the mainstream, it loses all, I don't say loses legitimacy, because it still stays legitimate, but it's open to being exploited. And that's pretty much what's happened. And so, as I said, in 2016 and in 2020 and now, people, if I say red pill, they think I'm talking about Nick Fuentes. If I say red pill, they think that I'm talking about MAGA. They think that I'm talking about, conservative, or like that one chick, like the girl who was talking, Miss Sigma, the girl who wanted to have a Sigma instead of the alpha guy. The alpha guy she's describing is the red pill equivalent of like MAGA guy. Oh, you're an insecure Christian evangelical MAGA guy. You're red pill. Like, that's what I kept saying. And I said this in March, the beginning of March in 2021 on Fresh and Fit. And I said, I hope it doesn't go mainstream, because what happens is you get people who come in here who are illegitimate brokers who don't know what they're talking about, like Pearl and like other people that we all know. And yeah, it is. It's how important is it to keep it is very important. It's important that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Rollo Tomasi will never be red pill adjacent. I promise you that. I give you my solemn promise as a candidate in the red pill running in the red pill candidacy or campaign. I will never stray from. I never have. I'm the slayer of the red pill. Seriously, Slayer has always, like the band Slayer, has never. Slayer's never going to do a disco album. They're never going to do an EDM album. Slayer is never going to do R&B. They're not going to change their sound to sort of be more radio friendly, and so people kind of rediscover Slayer after 10 years. They like thaw them out of cryogenic freeze, and they come out and they put out like Repentless, right? They never change their sound. It's always what Slayer is always fucking Slayer. It's always Slayer. It's never anything else. And that's me. And then you have like bad cover bands like Pearl. Pearl is a bad cover band of the red pill. A very bad. She's the Nickelback of the red pill, right? I'm the Slayer of the red pill. She's Nickelback. Okay. I'm trying to put it in like words people can understand here. Men are better at everything, even self-deletion. I keep hearing that. I'm so sick and tired of the phrase, well, that's just because. Yeah. Well, that's, you know what that comes from? I don't know what else. They might as well say this. Well, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Super chat question. Why does Myron Gaines, I know who Myron is, say women who are successful and women who make money in the professional world are useless and stupid? In general, why does the red pill and the manosphere hate women who chase career? I would never say that I would never qualify women in the professional world or who make money as stupid. Stupid. There's a difference between being stupid and being ignorant. Okay. So the reason why he says this is because it provokes. I'm not saying he doesn't believe it. He probably does. But let's just be honest. It's red meat and it provokes. It provokes a response. That's why why else would you Giuseppe De Freya? Why else would you give me a super chat like this if it didn't provoke you to do so? I don't necessarily think that, because stupidity is really a genetic thing. I don't know if you guys understand this. There's a difference between ignorance and stupidity, right? I'm ignorant of lots of things. There's your clip. I'm ignorant I'm ignorant of lots of things. I don't know. Let's see. I'm very ignorant of like crypto. I wish I was more educated on crypto. I like it well enough. I think I know enough just to sort of like get myself in trouble, right? I'm ignorant of the Spanish language. I'm not fluent. I can read, I can sort of carry on a conversation now and then, but like there's no way I'm going to be able to speak fluently with like Miguel Munoz. Okay. I'm ignorant of that. I don't lack the intelligence to learn that. My hardware works fine. If I really dedicated myself and put my, applied myself to learn algebra or calculus. My daughter knows calculus and trigonometry. I do not know any of that shit, right? My daughter happens to be very good at math, which surprises me because I don't have a mind for math very much. I mean, I'm pretty analytical and I can do basic, I got up to algebra 2. Okay, thanks. But I'm ignorant of trigonometry and calculus and all that good stuff, right? So, but do I have the brains that I could probably learn that if I applied? Yeah, for sure. That's different than being stupid. Stupid is you just simply lack the brains, you lack the intelligence, you lack the genetic material necessary to sort of process things. That's stupidity. Okay. So I would argue that most women that he's talking about are ignorant, but they're not necessarily stupid. All right. Maybe I'm just splitting hairs here, but the idea is like he wouldn't have a show if women weren't ignorant, and he's educating them on things that perhaps they might want to change their mind about at some point down the road. Now, honestly, I think that Myron is getting to the point right now where he's at the stage of exhaustion. He's trying to do things. He wants to do more politics. I can tell he wants to do more politics. When I see Walter, when I see Fresh go post up on Sneeko, he's kind of like, I'm fucking done. Like when Fresh starts coming at you, then you fucked up. So, or something's changing. And honestly, I think these guys have hit the point of exhaustion. It would probably behoove them to find something else to do right now. And they're probably going to have to. And a lot of other people are going to have to be, you are going to see within the next 4 months, 5 months, people are going to be scrambling for things to do and fresh ideas and new podcasts, new material, new content. They're going to be looking for more and more things that are novel, which in a way is kind of a good thing, but they're going to be shifting and pivoting away from all this politics stuff, all the stuff we were talking about, like, oh, this is the red pill, right? They're going to be moving away from that. Some of them will try to come back to intersexual dynamics, and they'll do it poorly. Me, being Slayer, will already be here. Some people will try to come back. They will no longer be red pill adjacent. They'll be red pill. Well, we've always been red pill. Get the fuck out of here. There's the door. Please leave. Exit. But I don't think that the red pill necessarily and the man hate women who chase career. I just think that they are more realistic about it. And you have to remember this. So you're using Myron as one example. The other example is this, like I've said this before, is that the red pill does not exist so that you will hate women. It exists so you won't hate women for what they can never be to you. I've also said this, is that the language of empiricism will always sound like the language of hate, will always sound like hate to the language of emotionalism. So if you are invested in a gynocentric social order and some guy comes along and says, men are better at this than women are, you've just basically painted a big, huge target on your back saying, I'm a misogynist because I believe that in this one particular realm that women might be at a disadvantage when it comes to this particular thing than men. And nothing has been easier than to sort of point out the fact that, you got transgender athletes that are performing in female sport divisions that are just dominating. It's not the other way around. You don't see females who transition to being males dominating male sports. Why? Because the empirical truth is that this is what happens. But me pointing this out, me even just saying that, I have to be careful even saying that. I could get banned for just saying that on YouTube or wherever, even fucking Twitter, even Elon Musk's, super fucking, free speech platform. You guys still have to be careful of what you can't say just anything. And I'll tell you the other thing that's going to probably happen is once we kind of make that shift back, all this stuff about free speech and all this other stuff. Remember what happened to people? Don't remember. Do you remember when Roosh decided to write his book, Free Speech Isn't Free? Of course you don't, because it was pulled from Amazon a long time ago. But during the 2016 elections, when he made his world tour, does anybody remember when he went on Dr. Oz or Dr. Oz and was billed as the fat shaming, the premier fat shaming guy on the internet? Does anybody even remember Roosh? Does anybody remember when Roosh went on that show? Do you know what he did with the money from that show? He went on a world tour because he wanted to do neo-masculinity, because he was leaning back into this sort of neo-conservative, traditional conservative bullshit where he would go from place to place, talk to about like a handful of guys, anywhere between 5 and 30 guys throughout Europe. He was trying to get into to Australia. They wouldn't let him in Australia. Do you remember that? When the Australian government would not let Roosh V into the country. He went to Canada and he got beer thrown in his face. Nobody remembers that. Do you remember when he was talking about, like, he was trying to go and do basically what he was doing was he was trying to prove that free speech isn't free, and here I am trying to talk about things and people are all over the world are limiting me, right? Well, because he was trying to pivot out of the red pill space into something else, and unsuccessfully. And where is he now? No fucking where. Doing his Orthodox Christian, whatever the fuck it is right now. I have no idea. Living in a cabin like fucking the Unabomber, right? And has a beard to match. Doing nothing. I don't think that the manosphere is necessarily anti career for women. Okay. If they are, it's because if you think that, it's because too many guys who call themselves red pill have latched on to this idea that the red pill is about traditional conservatism. It is not. It's about MAGA. No, it's not. It's about women being women and going back into the kitchen and having babies and saving the West by having more white babies. No, it's not. That is not the red pill, period. That's a practice. That is not a theory. I always throw this out there. It's like whenever I talk about like MRAs, like men's rights activists, when you talk about MGTOW, when you talk about black pill, when you talk about white pill, when you talk about gold pill, whatever fucking your mama pill, whatever it is, when you talk about movements, that is not the red pill. That is a movement. That's a practice. The red pill is a praxiology. It is not a practice. It is not a movement. It is not an ideology. It is not a force of nature. And we don't have a banner. We don't have an icon. We don't have jerseys. We don't have a team sport channel. We don't, no. And the people who do, that's not red pill. They're telling you how best to use that. They might use the red pill as sort of the basis of whatever their fucking pet ideology happens to be. And there are MAGA, Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, traditional conservatives, woke, based, whatever the fuck it is. Those are practices, my friend. This is how we're going to, like the black pill. We should or MGTOW, we need to just stay away from women. That's a practice. I don't care how you came to that conclusion. You might have come to that conclusion through, understanding intersexual dynamics and men's nature and women's nature and the fucking realities of the situation that you happen to find yourself in. And if you think that that's the best way to go about living your life, congratulations, but that's not the red pill. That is a practice. The red pill is a praxiology. So try to wrap your head around that difference. MGTOW is practice. We think that the best thing to do is just to go our own way. Go is a verb. We're going to go and do something else. We're going to stay away from women. We're going to, never to the two shall meet again, right? That's a practice. Men's rights activism is a practice. The black pill and all this stuff, just do nothing. Just don't do anything. All you got to do is just sit in your fucking basement and shit post on whatever, dark web forum you happen to be on. Incels.com. Incels is a practice. That's a practice. There's no such thing as an incel. There's no such thing as being involuntary celibate. It's 2024. You can get laid if you want to. Trust me. I will give you the money. We'll go to fucking the cat house as well. I will take you to the Shady Lady, or what's the other one? The Wildcat. I will take you to the Wildcat. I know exactly where it is. It's on 395. I will take you to the Wildcat, and you will no longer be an involuntary celibate. You can be a voluntary celibate, but your stuff's still a fucking practice. So, so don't give me that shit anyway. There it is. Is an inferiority complex a factor to women's being all about strong, independent, and wanting to be the man these days? No, they don't simply just don't know anything different. I would be careful of using like psych language like that. Do you know what an inferiority complex is? That's Freudian. That's Freud. Oh, well, Freud has been disproven and debunked, and he's just this perverted old man from the 1920s. Well, guess what? You're using his language. Be careful. Oedipus complex, projection. Projection keeps getting used over and over and over again, right? Well, Carl Jung used it. Yeah, because Carl Jung was a student of Sigmund Freud. You're using Freudian psychology. If you're going to use the idea of projection and you think you're an armchair psychologist and you think, oh, you're projecting, Rollo. Okay, fine. Well, guess what? You've just basically confirmed that Sigmund Freud was right. No, he's not right. He's a piece of shit. Oh, well, then you should probably reconsider your understanding of what fucking projection is. Okay. So inferior complex. No, I don't think it's or like penis envy. That's basically what you're saying. Do you think women have penis envy? Well, Dr. Freud, no, not anymore. Not today. You got to remember that when a lot of those concepts were developed, they were developed in times where we didn't have the same understanding of human nature that we do today. We didn't have Dr. Bust to tell us about the 53 country survey about, why women have sex and why men have sex. We didn't have fMRI scans. We didn't have evolutionary psychology. It wasn't even a fucking twinkle in your mama's eye. So that's why when people say, well, Rollo, why do you hate Carl Jung so much? I don't necessarily hate him. I just think that it's been bastardized to the point where it's we can't get away from this shit anymore. I think a lot of the stuff that Jung said was patently wrong. In fact, provably wrong in the 21st fucking century. Can we please move on? What about Abraham Maslow? Had some good ideas, but can we fucking move on? I'm from the school of behaviorism. I will say the same thing about B.F. Skinner. Can we please? He had great ideas. We're going to take what's useful and we're going to fucking move on. Can we please get out of the fucking past? Can we please take what they have, the good contributions that they had, add it to what we know now, and develop something fucking new? How awesome. Something novel. Can we please do that? No, can't do that. Projection, inferior complex, penis envy, blah, blah, blah. Because that's all most people know. Anima, animus. Get in touch with your feminine side. No, there is no feminine side. How about that? What a concept that would be. Men have a masculine side. Women have a feminine side. How awesome would that be? I brought this up with when stupid ass fucking Destiny was talking about oh yeah, men's masculinity needs to be here and their femininity needs to be here. I'm that presumes that the concept of anima and animus is actually something that has some sort of validity and hasn't been a bastardization of Jungian psychology. Well, men have a female side and a male side. No, how about this? They don't. How about we're just simply men and women are fucking men or women, and we can have some sort of masculine propensity, or things we would call masculine propensities or proclivities and stuff like that. In a pinch, a woman can fucking go change a tire, right? If her life fucking depended on it, most women would probably figure out how to pull off a lug nut, okay? But for the most part, women are just fucking helpless. And if somebody can come around and help them, if they can get a man to help them do whatever the fuck they, help them out of the rising floodwaters, that's what they're going to do. Now, that's the first proclivity or the first propensity for women to do, is to look for somebody to help them. They're the vulnerable sex. Well, it's just part of their nature. Okay. There's nothing wrong, nothing bad or good about it. It just is what it is. Men need a purpose. When we don't have a purpose and we don't have frontiers and we don't have things to fucking explore and we don't have things to kill and we don't have things to build, then we fucking go jerk off like fucking monkeys in a cage. So that's our natural propensity. It's funny when I say it about guys, people go, oh yeah, you're right. I talk about women changing fucking tires. Oh, women can change a tire. No, you can't. Fucking witches of Eastwick. Yeah, I would be very careful of using too much. Like people don't understand like where the epistemology of their beliefs come from. Inferiority complex, when it comes to being about strong, independent women, I don't think it's about inferiority. I think it's about necessity. If there's a fear involved, it's a fear of not having long-term security. I don't think it's about inferiority anymore. I think you probably could have made that case like before, like prior to the sexual revolution. You might have been able to make a case about inferiority complexes, but I don't, because it presumes that it's learned behavior, and I can already show you that personality is more heritable. It's almost entirely genetic. Are there environmental factors? Yes. Are there learning factors? Yes. But the genetics nature outweighs nurture. Put it that way. The question of nature versus nurture has been answered for over 2 decades right now, and no one's caught up. But what I would say is that the fear of not being prepared, the fear of not having long-term security is something that is endemic and something that is like an evolutionary firmware that is unique to the female psyche. So as a result, the strong, independent woman thing is a cope, or it's a contingency, let's just say, for this sort of zeitgeist / narrative understanding that you can't trust, like men are completely untrustworthy and you can't trust a man for your long-term security. Therefore, women must become strong and independent. Independent of who? Independent of men. Because you can't trust men. Men are untrustworthy. They're either abusers, they're Homer Simpson, they're fucking John Goodman and fucking Roseanne, right? They're the doofy, dorky husband that needs a wife to save him from himself. There's the abuser, the borderline abuser, or the manipulator, the Tinder swindler, or the abusive boyfriend that she keeps going back to. And then there's the incompetent fuck who can't fucking change a tire and doesn't know how to tie a tie and doesn't know how to drive a stick shift, and like whatever, it goes on and on, right? So you got incompetent, you got abuser, and you got doofy dad who's a liability, ridiculous Homer Simpson dad. Okay. If those are the most popular male archetypes of your generation, of course you're going to be a strong, independent woman, because you can't trust and depend on any of those archetypes. So what do women fear the most? Getting involved with those asshats, or whoever they are, whatever that caricature is, that cartoon that they've been taught since they were 5 fucking years old, to expect in a guy. And then what do you get? Well, you get strong, independent women, and you get a declining birth rate, and you get a rock bottom, like lowest in recorded history marriage rate. You get a high divorce rate. You get high, you get a high rate of birth. That is the births that do happen. 42% of those are out of wedlock. That's how you get this. You want Malthusian birth control, Malthusian economics, man. It's a population control through social initiatives. That's what it is. Let's see. It would seem that a woman who sees no choice but to settle will not ever be content in that relationship. Yes, and must necessarily have a higher instance of divorce. Is that a good assessment? Yeah. You're kind of describing the end phase of what I was talking about in, where did it go? Here. Can I put that up? There it goes. Okay. You're talking about really sort of the security phase there, and then there's the development phase. That development phase usually happens between, like, say, 36 and 40 years old for women. They've usually had 1, possibly 2 children by that point, and then they're deciding before they get to be 40. And again, these are via social conventions. Social conventions tell them they'll never find a man after 40 and they'll be unattractive. And for the most part, they're probably right. Fat average women, and that before 40, if they're going to stick it out with this guy, then they better make the decision. It's almost like making the same decision they made in their epiphany phase. It's almost kind of like a low-key epiphany phase right between 37 and 40 years old, where that woman has to decide whether or not she's going to stick with that guy or she's going to divorce that guy before she's 40 so she can get back with the personal trainer, so she can get herself back in the sexual marketplace, because now she already has like long-term security via the guy who was the guy she settled for, right? So she had her fun in 18, 29 years old. She marries a guy. Average age of marriage is what for women? 30 years old. And then what's the average duration of a marriage before divorce? 5 to 9 years, the average being 7. Therefore, right around 37 years old, that's when a woman decides whether or not she's going to stay with the guy she settled for, or if she's going to divorce him, get a personal trainer, and get in shape and get herself back in the sexual marketplace, assuming it's a possibility, before she's 40 years old, because that seems like it's like the cutoff point for women. And they're generally right that it is. And so guess what? Right around what is the prime demographic? The average age of first divorce for men and women, 41 for women and 43 for men. Let that sink in. Oh, Rollo thinks it's some grand conspiracy. No, I don't think it's a grand conspiracy. I just think it's a predictive framework is what it is. I don't think women are out to get you. I think it's just a predictive framework, and it just follows along. The incentives are there. 1 kid, 2 kids, got the kids, got them from the good beta who was a good father. Now Junior is about, well, one of them 7 years old at least, and the other one might be 5 or older, who knows. And now it's it's shit or get off the pot time. Do I want to stay with this guy that I settled for back when I was 29 years old and possibly get with a guy who's hotter and have some fun? Or do I stick it out with this? Or do I, go off and have fun, repeat the process, basically? Because that's kind of like what women do. Is like when they get through that first divorce, when they have that first divorce, they want to become cougars. Like they would like to have sex with somebody that's more exciting than their fucked up husband. Generally looking for guys who are younger than them. In the long term, they're looking for guys who are older, obviously. But in the short term, they might, because it's easier to bang women who are like, for guys who are in their, let's say, mid-20s, to get with a woman who is really sort of eager and ready to go. And social conventions are telling that woman that she's actually in her sexual prime. Trust me, that's like, if you look at these like sort of like, Cosmo and Women's Day magazine studies about like when men are supposedly in their sexual prime and women are in their sexual prime, they'll say that men are in their sexual prime right around 18 or 19 years old, but women are in their sexual prime when they're about 40 years old. How convenient. What a convenience. Actually, no, women are actually in their sexual prime right around 23, because that's peak fertility years right there. That's why I peg that as women's peak potential years. Because their eggs are still fresh and fertile and ready to go, right? And then of course after 30, women start to lose eggs, and then by the time they get to about their mid 40s, that's when menopause hits. So if there is a rise in sexuality for women around the age of 40, it's usually because of 2 things. One is the biological side of things. Is it's possible that the human female body knows that it's running out of eggs, and those have to be fertilized if there's ever going to be any more children. I've read research about this where it's like when women get to be about like 40-ish, and they're divorced. By the way, I want to also point out that like when men get into a relationship, when they get into a long-term relationship, or they get into a marriage relationship, their testosterone levels decline. So do women's testosterone levels decline. And when when men get out of a relationship and they get divorced and they get back into the sexual marketplace, their testosterone levels increase. So do women's. So we never really talk about like, well, what about women's testosterone rates? Well, they climb too. They climb for different reasons, though. At least theoretically speaking, I would say. But I think that when women get to be about 40 years old and they seem to think that they are at their sexual peak and they want to become cougars, there's a biological evolutionary reason for that. So again, I could be off base. I might be. I probably am. But honestly, women who want to just have sort of like that short-term flings are looking for younger guys, being younger guys looking for older women because it's easier. It's easier to fuck an older woman as a younger guy than it is to fuck a woman who is of your sort of peer level. And we can see the statistics on this as evidenced by, 67% of men between the ages of 18 and 29 are single, whereas 34% of women report being single. So therefore, you've got something like 64% of women between 18 and 29 are in relationships, quote unquote, right? Whether they're married or they're whatever, right? They report not being single, right? So 34% of women are. So what that means is if men are reporting 67, it means that those women are doing something else. They're either fucking the same guy or they're fucking guys who are outside of that demographic, meaning 30 years or older. Okay. So what about women who are in sort of the 40-year-old demographic? Who are they fucking? Are they fucking guys that are older than them? Or are they fucking guys who are younger than them, having that young sort of like, cougar fling? And then once they get that out of their system, they start looking for somebody more in the long term, which of course is even more difficult for them as they discover after a while. But yes, it would seem that they would settle, would never be content. Yeah, well, they aren't content. And generally speaking, we play a really dirty trick on women. That's why I said, you only live once, and FOMO are the two key ways of turning a buck if you're ever going to, work in sort of like a female. If you want to leverage and manipulate female nature, stick to you only live once and fear of missing out. Or else this, convince women that their sexuality is evergreen. Convince women that they're always sexy at any age and at any weight. If you can convince women of that, you're going to make $1 million. Tried to talk to my father about prenups and how to protect assets from divorce, and he started gaslighting me and saying I was scared and it's not going to happen. Seems like he's burying his head in the sand. And you're probably right. Let me guess. Is it his second marriage? Yes, he is burying his head in the sand. I blame the men for letting women invade the male spaces because the drama and or the pretty faces that I bring, movies, views, money. Okay. And then lastly here, greetings, Rolo, have all your books. I'm very tempted to get into TRW and daddy coins. I don't know what daddy coins are. I need your good feeling on this one because I'm nervous. Much better. Thank you for good. I don't know what daddy coin is. That like an altcoin? So I wish I knew what you're talking about, dude. Oh, TRW and daddy coins. I'll have to ask Miguel Munoz about that. I will get back to you on that. I really don't know enough about it to make an educated estimate. Okay. Now explaining why people buy things. I don't need to do that, actually. That's already been done by Gad Saad, and I think he did a pretty good job with that. All right. I want to get into this. Well, first of all, let me run in. I'm going to run into a couple of things here. I got into I want to say a debate. I got into sort of a discussion about male spaces, and I don't know where this came from, but I know Brandy from whatever that podcast is that she's on. She just like got really kind of like all uptight about men's male spaces, and I think what really kind of rubs women the wrong way is like the fact that there would be a need for a male exclusive space, right? Now, the reason why I brought this up, and I kind of like had this sort of Twitter exchange. And by the way, I'm not the only one that did that. It was also a lot of the guys in sort of, I say Rule Zero, but a lot of the guys in the people that hang out, my friends, my online friends, our secret society, T-Rex Army. The reason why it's so hard for women to kind of wrap their heads around male space is because they think that male space shouldn't exist. They think that there's some sort of endemic patriarchy. And I thought it was interesting that they brought this up almost immediately in the beginning of this new Jubilee discussion, which I'm gonna put up here and sort of riff on a little bit for the rest of the show. But it kind of dovetailed nicely into this male space discussion that we were having. And when I talk about male space, like I got basically three ways of sort of coming about this. One is sort of like what I call men in the garage. Okay. Men in the garage is having a man cave, right? When I lived in Florida, there used to be like, you would go to these guys, they would have these garages, and sometimes we would call them like a Florida room, right? They were usually converted garages, and they would have like screen, like a screen to keep the fucking mosquitoes out, right? And there might be a pool table in there, and they might have like a full-on bar. I remember you could walk, like there's certain parts in like St. Cloud and Harmony, Florida, and some of these other places I used to live, like Kissimmee, Florida, where you could walk around the neighborhoods, and like you could literally like if you knew where to go, it was almost like going to like local bars, right? And this was back when I was drinking too, so like you could walk down the street. And I knew of this one guy, he had a pool table, he had like video games, and he had like a big screen TV, and like the football games were going on. And he had like this, it was kind of a small, kind of a mini wet bar. And like you could literally go there, just hang out. And you didn't have to pay anything to do. It would just be like, hey, man, you want a beer? Yeah, you just hang out. And it was just like guys being guys kind of thing. And then you could go to another one and to another one. And it got to the point where it's like these sort of, it was what I call men in the garage. And I wrote an essay about this after like sort of experiencing this when I lived in Florida. And a lot of the guys, it's funny to me that they need this space. They need this kind of like clubhouse. They need this sort of tree house where it's not even like no men are allowed kind of thing, or no women are allowed kind of thing, but it's just sort of like an unspoken thing. Like a man cave is where the guys go in and they do their man things, which is like shoot pool and drink and play video games. Apparently, I don't know what else it is that they do. Like I would play Warhammer 40,000 if that was me. But I thought it was kind of tragic at that time. And that's what when I was writing the essay about men in the garage, it was about these guys sort of carving out this one little area of their house that was their place, because everywhere else in their house was more or less dominated by their wives. So the living room was all done by Bed Bath & Beyond, right? Or the bathroom, or the curtains and drapes, everything, the carpet, well, all the stuff. Everything in the house was a decision that was made by his wife. And it kind of tracks with a lot of the stats of today. Like major purchases are made by women. Clothing purchases, even male clothing purchases, are purchased by women right now. Hygiene kind of stuff like toothpaste, bars of soap, that kind of stuff. Computers, mostly women buy computers. Mostly women are the ones making the decisions on what vacations they're going to go to, that the family's going to go to. Women are deciding where they're going to live and what the school systems are that they're going to let their kids go into. Women will not relinquish that sort of need for long-term security because they can't trust the guy. And when the guy abdicates authority, he basically abdicates the entirety of the whole house, right? Now, I'm a little bit different. I don't have a man cave. I have a studio here that I always keep to myself. I have a music studio that I have. I have the garage, which is my workshop. I build guitars down there. I cobble things together. I like to do projects and stuff like that. I have a side yard over here where I have my toys, where I used to have my snowmobiles, but now I have my jet skis and everything. And the house is more or less a reflection of myself and my wife's influence. But like there's certain areas of the house that are, pretty much I'm in control of the studio, obviously. And I try to make it look as professional as possible. But I don't have like a man cave per se, with a sort of the intent of it being like a man cave, like a male exclusive space. And I thought what was interesting is like once the trend, or once the cultural phenomenon that is man caves sort of became a little bit more mainstream, that's when you start seeing these commercials like Geico commercials or T-Mobile commercials or whatever else. And it's no longer about man caves anymore. It's a she cave or a she shell or a she shed. That's what man caves and she sheds. I think that's what it was. And so now it's not enough. Like men can't have that. But women, you get this little mini house that's out in the backyard, and it's like this little teeny tiny, like, one of those little houses that you get over at like Home Depot, right? It's supposed to be a shed, but they turned it into some sort of like little cottage getaway that only women are allowed to, and it's a she shed. So it wasn't enough for there to be just a man cave. There had to be a she shed on top of that. And then that's when you see, well, men have their things, but women do too. And buy T-Mobile, right? And buy Geico insurance or whatever it was. I also wrote about that in that same essay at that time. And it sort of led me to the idea that men and male spaces are not something that are permitted, or not for very long anyways. And this came out, I remember, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, I was on Pat Campbell's show. We started talking about, there was this new initiative, and it was on Harvard University, that they were banning all male exclusive, like extracurricular clubs. Anything that was just a male exclusive club could no longer be male exclusive. But it wasn't just male exclusive. It was like sex exclusive. So female clubs, all female clubs had to be open to male membership, and all male clubs had to be open to female membership. Well, women lost their shit. Men were like, well, we're so used to women coming in here and fucking things around. But when women lost their shit because they wanted to have that sort of exclusive space to themselves, they needed it away from men so that they could sort of like heal and grow and whatever the fuck it is that they were doing in these clubs, right? And this was at Harvard. And when this new conversation came up about male spaces just recently, I went back to see if that was still a thing, because that was a pretty glaringly obvious thing. And guess what? Harvard University rescinded that. But they didn't rescind it because of the male exclusive clubs. They rescinded it because of women's outcry for wanting their own sex exclusive spaces. So it's okay for women to have gender exclusive spaces, but it's not okay for men to have those things. We don't get a man cave without a she shed. But Harvard University will rescind their sexual exclusion policies on their extracurricular clubs because women cried a river about it. So I brought this up, and I was talking about this, and when I was talking about male space, it sort of led into this other. If you've read my second book, in fact, there is a dedicated chapter. And yes, those red pill guys, we've talked about this before, whether you think so or not, but we have talked about this before. It is a conversation we have had for a very long time. And it's actually a essay I wrote called Male Space. Wow. And it turned into a chapter in the second book called Male Space. So I wrote about that. And I also wrote about gamer girls, because it wasn't so much about the girls themselves, but it was about the dynamic of allowing women into what would traditionally be male spaces. So I want to sort of point this out here before I put this. I'm giving you sort of the preamble here before I get into the what I was going to say here. Is this it? Where did it go? Okay, this is the freak destiny. And I'm just going to scroll up. I'm just going to scrub through this video real quick, because there's this one part here where he talks about male space, and it's sort of is a good jumping off point for all.
Autistic fixation on destiny has completely consumed him.
Do they ever speak like normal human beings? All right, I got to scrub up through this, and this is where he starts talking about sort of the conversation we were having about male space, right? And of course, Destiny doesn't believe there's anything called male space, or that male space is in some way guys getting together like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, right? So let's
the problem is that, I mean, like, the left doesn't talk about men because they hate men and white people, I guess, or whatever. But the problem is all of the communities that are created for men are doing exactly what she's doing. Like, there are not men that go into red pill spaces or Andrew Tate spaces or fresh and fit spaces and learn how to create community or learn how to engage in healthy friendships or healthy behavior.
Okay, this is patently incorrect. In fact, if you go and you look at, if you go and you join Reignite or you join MOA, I can't speak for the War Room because I don't know any different, but I have heard that was one of the, what do you think is the attraction then? Why would guys want to be part of these groups if not for a need for a tribal community? And again, the reason why this is coming up is because freaks like this seem to think that men getting together is in some way inherently dangerous.
It's always just like the same hollow bullshit lip service. It's like, oh, just be a lumberjack and go cut wood like a real man. Or
literally no one is saying this, but this is the narrative that his Democratic his friends at Progressive Victory would like you to believe. But this is what these guys, it's ridiculous masculinity, right? It's the ridiculous guy. It's Homer Simpson, or what was it from King of the Hill? The guy, when King of the Hill guy, I forget the father's name in King of the Hill, when he takes TRT and everybody thinks he's like cheating on his wife or something, and he turns it like that. That's the ridiculousness of this, right?
Be there for your bros while you side hustle grind for your 5 businesses. And it's like, the fuck, what does any of this have to do with fucking anything? Nobody's learning how to be a better person here or a better friend or to build a community.
Do you think that perhaps as a result of learning to do those things and having those projects that perhaps they are, but you just don't know about it because you haven't been a part of those things? You're just simply ignorant of those communities and ignorant of the purpose behind those. See, here's the thing, and this is I want to harp on this in particular, is because this is a key element to my own group, to MOA, to any of the sort of like the quote unquote red pill groups, such as who else is he going to name, right? Has he been in the war room? Does he know anything about this? Has he been part of Justin Waller's group? Has he been part of any group of guys? No, he hasn't. So he has no fucking frame of reference here. This is all straw man bullshitting once again. But it's important to understand like sort of the narrative that's inherent in the bullshit, okay? Because it's very pro-feminine. It's very pro-female, which of course I would expect, the people who are fucking his paymasters would want him to say. But the thing is that, and I point this out in the very beginning of my Reignite program, is that men communicate better when they have a project to work on, when they have a car to fix, when they have a project that they're like, whether maybe it's building a business, I don't know, maybe they're playing golf, maybe they're fucking going to the shooting range, maybe they're lifting, maybe they're deep sea fishing, maybe they're driving fast cars, maybe they're playing chess, right? Maybe they're doing, it doesn't have to be something really extravagant. It could just be some sort of shared mutual interest. As I was saying, and I point this out in the Reignite program as well, is like some of the best conversations I've ever had with my father and with my brother have been when we've been working on cars. My brother, I have a younger brother, he's 2 years younger than me, and he owns his own classic muscle car restoration company, right, in Nevada here. I don't know if you want me to give him a drop, but it's Callaway Motorsports. So my brother does this. He takes like muscle cars and he reconditions them, restores them, and then he takes them to like the Barrett Jackson auctions that you see on like ESPN now and then, which are in like Las Vegas and like Scottsdale, Arizona, right? So sometimes you'll see it, but he'll work on like maybe 2 or 3 cars. And that's how he makes a good chunk of his money. He also does like custom work for other people too. So sometimes he works on exotics and stuff. But my brother's always been like sort of a gearhead. He always liked to work on the cars and build the cars. And I like to race them and break them because I like speed. The best conversations I've ever had with my brother is when we're like sitting over like a big black Chevy and we're like working on a Holly 4-barrel carburetor, and we're just sitting there and just shooting the shit and just bullshitting. We're like, we're still working. We have a function. We have a project we're working on. But in the process of working on that particular project or that thing, that problem that we're solving, in this case, we're trying to fix a problem. Maybe we're trying to build something, right? Or you have some sort of unity that is based on a shared vision or shared interest or a shared problem to solve or a shared project that you're building together. That's when men discuss things. Like I was saying before, when women communicate, it's the communication thing. When women communicate, they communicate for the sake of communication. Let's go to Starbucks and let's catch up, right? When women communicate, they sit across from each other. And they're like, okay, and then what happened? And women love to communicate for the sake of just communication. Men communicate because we're communicating information. Women are more interested in people, and men are more interested in things. That affects how we communicate. So if I'm working on a thing and we're talking about a thing, I'm exchanging information. Men's communication is based on content. It is, what's the information? Women's communication is based on context. How did the conversation make her feel? It's not that the information for women is unimportant. It is important, but it is not as important as the feeling that they get when they're conversing. For men, it's not. It comes information first. What's the project? What are we working on? Blah blah blah. And then how did it make us feel? So it's the priority is different, just simply because that's just how our brains are wired, man. And so the reason why a guy like Destiny doesn't know this shit is because he's never had a group of guys. He's never had a tribe. He's never been involved in those things. He's never had a project. Maybe he's, played League of Legends and had some good conversations during that. But it's usually because we have a shared interest and we're putting something together, or we're solving a problem, or we have some sort of purpose that we're cooperatively focusing on. I was asked a little earlier about why men can't create the brotherhood uber alles. You know why? Because we don't have a common purpose to be united under. So what do? We compete with one another. We compete with each other. We don't have a cathedral. We don't have we don't have Notre Dame to build anymore. We don't have it. I mentioned this in the last podcast. We don't have the same frontiers to explore anymore. Like when I was talking about pirate latitudes and I was talking about black sails, right? And being a pirate, I'm going to be a pirate. Well, the reason why that was so seductive and so great back then is because there was a new fucking world to explore. There's no new world to explore. So if you want to know why, if you want to say, hey, well, what's happening there? What the goal state that Destiny's talking about is a goal state for women. It's not a goal state for men. Yes, maybe these guys did go. Who knows? I don't know. I've never been in the war room, so I can't speak to it, and neither can he, because I know damn well he wasn't part of this. So I'm just going to speculate here and say that the reason why those communities are attractive in the first place is because they seem like a collective on a united purpose, and as a result of being focused on that particular thing or that particular purpose or solving that problem, that's where the communication happens. But you don't know that because the guy was acculturated and socialized as a woman, as a female. Remember what was, I think it was Camille Paglia. When Camille Paglia said, if we raise our boys as if they're defective girls, guess what? When those defective girls who were boys become men, they are defective women, or the defective men who look a lot like women. They act like women. We raise our boys, our men, to be defective women. And guess what? Destiny is a perfect example of the defective woman that these defective girls become, because he's never been acculturated. He's never been socialized in any masculine way, certainly no conventionally masculine way. So how is he ever supposed to know that when guys have a common purpose to be united under, that's when we do communicate. That's when we do form bonds. That's when we do form brotherhood. You want brotherhood uber alles? Give me a fucking Holly 4-barrel carburetor to work on with my brother and my other friends. And we're going to create the brotherhood uber alles just over a fucking car, because you have to have that common. The best friendships that are developed amongst men are ones where we have common interest. In fact, I would argue that the only way to have a friendship is to have a common interest, at least as a starting point. So, of course, he's ignorant. He's simply ignorant of male culture. So how is he supposed to ever figure this shit out for himself?
And the communities that they are a part of all just revolve around blaming women and feminism and liberals for all of their fucking problems.
No, they don't. That's you straw manning those communities. And the reason you straw man those communities is because you're worried that guys might actually form a brotherhood uber alles. You're worried that guys might actually organize. They actually might find solidarity and unity. So you've got to berate them because it goes against your feminine training. You're a defective woman.
Like, what do you even do? Yeah, you're fucked. As soon as you start to fall into this shit, you're super fucked.
Right. So if you can demonize it and tell everybody they're super fucked, what does it do? It reinforces your socialization as a woman. That's all Destiny is. He's just a chick. He's a chick with male parts. He doesn't know how to think in any other way. So anyways, I want to throw that one out there first because it sort of dovetails into the Jubilee thing. God, I can't believe somebody sent me this Jubilee thing. What was it MCD who sent me this? He said, I can't believe they jilted or they snubbed Rollo again. And I'm like, I didn't even get a call. He can't snub me if I didn't know about it. Let's see, super chat. Why are gender relations between men and women getting worse? Because we're more polarized and we're more atomized. Not better in Western societies. It looks like men and women sadly hate each other and the two genders are going apart. Well, I'm sad that you think that way. I wish it wasn't that way. As I said before, men and women are better together than they are apart. We are natural, innate, evolved complements to one another. Okay. Male weaknesses are compensated by female strengths, and female weaknesses are complemented by male strengths. But we don't want to reckon. You want to know what's driving men and women apart? The blank slate. This bullshit idea that men and women are exactly the same. We're equal. And I love how we give lip service to, oh, men and women are different. No, but the thing is you still cling to that blank slate bullshit how do I know that? Because we still have biological men in female sports, that in the Olympics. That's how I know it's still around. Because if we had said, if we'd all agreed and said, yeah, maybe the blank slate is bullshit, that wouldn't even be a consideration. But it's not. Right? We're still going against this sort of woke bullshit narrative right now that is founded on three things. Well, technically four. It's founded on the blank slate. It's founded on social constructionism, which, by the way, another fucking destiny bugbear. So the blank slate, social constructionism, emotionalism, and what was the other one? I forget the other one. Anyways, you kick out those three legs. There's a fourth one. There's those three legs of the stool, and everything pretty much crashes down around you. So if you want to know why like men and women are being separated right now, or it seems like there's no common ground between men and women, it's because we have this insistency on clinging to this old school bullshit, which I'm about to show you here. What is this? Are Jubilee male feminists raised by single moms? Yes, most likely. Well, I tell you, the thing that gets me is, dude, fuck off, dude. Really? I don't give two flying fucks about Destiny. I use him as a fucking example. I use Destiny as an example, fucking illustration. What's what? Would you like me to use another illustration here? I'll be glad to do so. How's that? Here we go. Men's rights activists. I'm glad. Okay, so I see Pearl has been re-invited back to this bullshit again. Of course, she's sitting on the male. I guess she didn't get. I guess having her interview with Paul Elam sort of motivated her to do this bullshit again. But again, here we go with Jubilee. I kind of want to put this up here. This is like, okay, so you can see Jasmine Jafar is on the feminist side, as you might guess. All right, this guy should never have been on the opposite side. Like, if you're gonna start, like, you notice the language here already. We're already off to a bad start. Okay, male at birth people. Can you just say when? Or can you just say men? Let's just go with men. Okay, can you just be like? What this does is the language is it's presumed language here. So let me actually put myself up. This is presumed language. So when I have said in the past, I say, if you want to do something, like people say, Rollo, what can we do? How can we fight the woke narrative and everything? Stop using their language. This is their language. And it's a presumption that everybody agrees. Because the guy uses this and nobody checks him on it, it's a tacit agreement. So if you say the patriarchy, what's that? What the fuck is a patriarchy? No one asks this. What do you think the patriarchy is? There's never any challenge to like the sort of the ideology that proceeds from these guys.
By a lot of women's rights are, and I think it's important that we fight for that.
Right. I love this because like recently, and I have it. I might dig into this later if I have time. But Andrew Wilson like posted up on fucking Tim Pool about rights, and I thought this was just it was just a fundamental miscommunication here when it comes to like what even are rights. Like I was on when I was on Dr. Phil, one of the audience questions was I'd said something about what are you what does he say? Some chick said something to the effect of like, our rights are under attack, like women's rights, this and that. And I don't think they were expecting this. I said, what rights don't women have? Fucking crickets. No one said a goddamn thing. Zero. Well, reproductive this and reproductive that. I said, you still have the right to do that. What rights don't you have? Because I can point out rights that men do not have that women do inherently have. And they left in the part where I said, what rights don't women have? And nobody, like fucking crickets, nobody said jack shit. They weren't expecting that. They were expecting me to like, you know, then it was, oh yeah, well, women make 77 cents on the dollar. I go, no, that has been debunked. And even fucking Dr. Richard Reeves, back of all people, backs me up on this too. So what do you think about Tom Likas officially retiring from making content? Good. He needed to retire a long time ago. Any thoughts on his legacy, since many view him as a trailblazer? I think in his early days when he was on terrestrial radio, I thought he was an inspiration to me. Definitely one of my top sources cited, for sure. You want to know where I got spinning plates? It was from Tom Likas, right? I just elaborated on it and put my own spin on spinning plates. But once his contract was up at KLOS in Los Angeles and he was no longer on terrestrial radio, that was the beginning of the end for Tom, which is sad, because I think he had a whole lot more to do, but he couldn't because he was contractually bound not to do anything. And then once he was out from under that contract, everybody forgot about him, and the shit had changed, because by that time we're in the mid 2000s and we're sort of getting into a different way of the media dissemination of media was much different. And I think he just kind of, honestly, I think it was just sort of this downward spiral after that. I like Tom. I just don't think he, I think he contributed quite a bit. Like I said, I think he was definitely what I would call proto Red Pill before anybody knew what Red Pill was. But definitely a trailblazer for sure. Remember what I told you about Lauren Southern's the documentary funded by Tenet Media? We have to ask this question: who is funding Jubilee as agitprop? That's a good fucking question, man. Can somebody find that out? Who pays Jubilee? Because I'm looking at Jasmine Jafar on there, and I know goddamn well who pays her. It's Progressive Victory, or they have in the past anyways, paid for by Progressive Victory. And you'll notice that these are younger guys and this is like Gen Z right here. And every one of the people that's on, even Pearl and the rest of these guys, they're still backing up this bullshit narrative. They're still using the language. Even the people who are supposed to be sort of pro like masculine, who are supposed to be like men's rights activists, which is bullshit. They're still using the language of the woke. They're still and if they're not, they're tacitly agreeing with it. Like I said before, that when this guy uses terms like the patriarchy, that's like straight out of Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem. That's 70s militant feminism is what that is. Smash the patriarchy, right? This is 2024. If you haven't smashed the patriarchy since what, 1965, you got a fucking big ass problem. Your movement fucking sucks. It sucks if you haven't smashed the patriarchy in what, the last like 60 years. It means you suck. It really does. Either you suck at smashing the patriarchy, or there ain't no fucking patriarchy to begin with. And that's the other more terrifying part of all of this, is that they might not have something to sort of like circle the wagons around, right? And then on top of that, it's birthing people and male presenting people and men or humans with penises, whatever. Dude, whenever that happens, you will always see me. Whenever I see that, I go, can we say men, please? Because I will challenge that immediately, because that is when that kind of language is asserted, it puts it's like saying this: we're going to speak in my native tongue. We're going to speak in emotionalese, and no rights have been taken away. The right to an abortion has only been regulated by the states, and still nothing's really gone through. Nothing's really happened. There's been no radical changes to Roe v. Wade. It's just been kicked back to the states, which is, by the way, where it began.
Down a dark.
Let's go over here and have a look, shall we? Since we're all up in this, remove that, and then let's share the screen here, and let's go to current members of the Supreme Court. There we go. Oh, it's mostly men. Okay, but the only guys that are on there that actually don't like in some way vote for like female interests, let's put this here. So we've got just John Robert. We got Roberts, Justice Right. I wonder if any of these people could mention or could name the Supreme Court justices. Okay, so we've got Clarence Thomas. Okay, got it. We got Samuel Alito. Okay, we've got Sonia Sotomayor. We've got Elena Kagan. We've got Gorsuch, but he's associate judge. Brett Kavanaugh, also associate judge. Okay, we've got Amy Coney Barrett. Okay. And I think she's new, isn't she? Ketanji Brown Jackson. I was unfamiliar with her. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's the 9 Supreme Court justices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 are men and 4 would be women, right? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. There's an unequal amount of, so to say that it's mostly men, well, yeah, but only by one dude. Okay. Only by one guy. And I'm going to tell you right now, Alito usually votes with the chicks anyways. So the only person who doesn't is probably Clarence Thomas, and Clarence Thomas has a history, right? But I will tell you right now, it is as equal as it can be within 9 judges. It's not like there's 2 chicks and 7 dudes. Okay. It's not like there's, 3 girls and 6 guys, right? Okay. It is as even as it possibly can be with 9 folks on the fucking Supreme Court justice or on the Supreme Court. And then also I should say that there's also some associate judges here, but people don't even know about. So then you've got Anthony Kennedy, retired. Oh, these are the retired ones. Okay, so Soter, and then I want to also point this one out too. We also had the hero of the woke, which was, of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died on the bench, literally died at 89 years old, died on the bench. You know why she died on the bench? Well, I'm glad you asked, children. The reason she did was because she, quote unquote, and told her granddaughter on her deathbed that she was holding out for the first female president. Guess who she thought that was going to be? She wanted to be replaced on the bench by the first female president, who would presumably be Hillary Clinton, which never happened. So you know why she stuck it out, and she waited and waited and waited until and then, by the way, I think it was in 2020 when she died, died on the bench during an election year, and Trump was still the president at that time. She would rather have been dead on the Supreme Court bench at 89 years old than to be replaced by Donald Trump, than to be replaced by a man. She said that to her. It's in her deathbed confessions to her granddaughter, who was there when she was finally, she was being taken to the hospital and everything. And women lost their fucking minds. Oh my God, they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, blah, 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 blah. Because the battle axe, the old lady of the Supreme Court was gone. Well, you want to talk about ideological, dedication? You want to talk about ideologues? You don't get much more ideologish than Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Okay. Literally died on the bench, hoping that the next president was going to be a female. So don't give me this horse shit. I love it I love being able to just go and sort of meticulously pull these things. They can't do that in the middle of Jubilee, right? But I'm going to say right now, 4 of the Supreme Court justices are female, 5 of them are male. So if we had 5 that were female and 4 that were men, would we even be having the conversation? Probably not. Go fuck off. Tell them to go fuck. What? Who's on? Who's on tonight? Is somebody good? Is it going to be Andrew? Is Andrew going to be on tonight? Yeah, probably not. Would be interesting to see Nuke or Troy on Access. Troy Francis? Troy's been on Access Vegas before. I'd have Nuke. If Nuke wants to come on, I'll put him on in a heartbeat. Who's going to be on? Who's Q? Q is going to be on. Who the fuck is Q? Q is going to be on whatever podcast tonight. Andrew. Oh, Andrew and you. Andrew and Q? Who the fuck is Q? Q who? Whatever podcast is just an OF. Yes, it is. You are correct. I love it when people give me shit about like, oh man, Rollo, how come you give these girls a platform? I'm like, dude, do you know how often I do Access Vegas? I do it on a good month. I do it every other Thursday, right? I can't believe you're giving these porn stars and OnlyFans girls, you're giving them free props. And they're like, dude, go fucking talk to Brian, man, please. Please go. Q equals young black dude. Q pill? I have no idea who Q is. I'm gonna go look now because you guys said that. All right. Well, let me continue here before we wrap up, so you guys can go see the Q pill, who I have no idea who the dude is. Oh wow, another come up. He looks kind of like a more concerned version of Marquette. Is he a better version of Marquette Burton? Anybody who puts Pearl and Jasmine on your platform for relevancy or interview, you have zero credibility. Yeah. And especially when you're using Pearl as a men's rights activist. I wonder if they got her because she did that one interview with Paul Elam and they made a mistake. Oh, wait. Rolla, do you think using seeking arrangements for sex like CGA does is a good idea? CGA does? I didn't know I did. For sourcing? Is a good idea, or do you think it's prostitution? Well, yeah. What's not prostitution? Tell me what's not prostitution. Like, because you can construe pretty much anything to be prostitution these days. That's why I was trying to be very careful in the beginning of the story when I was talking, or the beginning of the show today. I was like saying, hey, look, if women want to be like sort of, they want to have the pretty woman thing. I mean, you're basically the hooker with the heart of gold. Oh, I can't believe you call them prostitutes and hookers. Well, what else do you want me to call them? What else should I say? What other term really tells the story?
Right? In 1974, get access to have their own bank account. Like, that's absurd.
Okay. This is a lie. This is a patent. God, I wish I was on this fucking show. Jubilee, what the fuck, man? Because here's what I would have said. In 1974, when women got they were able to have their own savings account and their own bank account. That's because in 1971, we went off the gold standard. All right. All of these things, this was the cascade effect that I keep talking about. Okay. It's not that women fought for Jesus Christ. It's not that they fought for their rights to have a bank account. It's just that women were bad credit risks up until we went to fiat currency. That's why. It wasn't because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was on the fucking bench. It wasn't because Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan freed you up to go have credit cards and to basically have credit debt. It was because in 1965 there was hormonal birth control, which spiked the divorce rate, which spiked women going to work because they didn't have a mandate. They wanted to be independent women, right? Independent of who? Independent of men. So what happens is they go get divorced and the marriage rate starts to plummet. The divorce rate starts to go sky high. Guess what else happens? 1968 or 68. Yeah, 68 to 70. No fault divorce to accommodate all of the divorces that are coming into the system. And by the way, your good friend, Ronald Reagan, the president, who was the governor of California at the time, decided it was a A-OK idea to have no fault divorce. And then what happened? State by state by state by state by state, all of them had no fault divorce. Why? Because they had so many fucking divorces coming into the system and it just expedited the process. Well, now that those little ladies are finally free from the tyranny and slavery of being housewives, what are they going to do? Get into the workforce. What happens in the workforce? Well, let's see. Mean averages stay the same. Mean income averages, like wages, stay the same. Productivity shoots through the roof, right? Wow. Okay, awesome. Well, we got all this happening all this social unrest is going on. Let's see, what else can we add to this? Oh, I know. Let's go and now that we have, what was it? 1971. 1971, we go off the gold standard and we have fiat currency. Guess what, ladies? Way's clear. The credit card companies and and bank accounts, your savings and loans. Yeah, come on in. We need more customers. Guess what? Your wages stay the same, but productivity goes through the fucking roof. So yes, it's not a feminist triumph of 1974 that women got a bank account and they got credit that they couldn't get before when they were married, it's because you were too much of a fucking risk. Now you're not, because we have fiat currency. No more gold standard, no more gold backing it. We can do whatever we want. Awesome. Guess what else happens? 1973, 74, Roe v. Wade, poof. It's not enough that you have a hormonal birth control and you don't have to worry about that and the sexual revolution and free love and fucking Woodstock and everything. No. Now you have free, safe, available abortion on demand whenever you'd like it, ladies. It's not, and trust me, it wasn't because of feminism. It wasn't because of Betty Friedan. It wasn't because of Gloria Steinem. It wasn't because you're fighting for your right. But by the way, the ability to end or terminate a pregnancy is not a right. Neither is a bank account. A bank account and a credit card to this day are still very much privileges, assuming you can afford them. Your right to a bank account is contingent on your ability to put money in it. I was like, I was watching Tim Pool versus Andrew, and I totally back. I 100% understand what Andrew was talking about. Like rights are basically enforced by violence. That's what it is. Go watch Starship Troopers. Violence, the supreme authority from which all other authority is derived. And that's not even Heinlein. That's I forget who he was talking. He was quoting somebody actually. That's pretty much it. Who enforces the right? Who enforces your rights? Men. How do they do it? Violence. Because ultimately that's what it comes down to. Oh, you're not comply or not? Oh, you're not going to comply? I guess we're going to have to kill you or imprison you or take you by force and put you somewhere, do something with you, forcibly do something with you. That's really what rights come down to. I mean, the enforcement of rights, the concept of rights might be something a little different, but the enforcement of rights always comes down to brute force. The supreme authority from which all other authority is derived from. Violence. So this bullshit about 1974 and, oh, these poor little girls didn't have any bank accounts until that was an economics choice. That wasn't a feminist choice. But these idiot children seem to think that it was. It's not ridiculous. The terminology was what the language was back then because they didn't speak emotionalese. They spoke in empirical senses. Did they mean women as well? No, actually they didn't. They meant landowning men is what they meant because those were the guys that had skin in the game during that time when they were creating the Constitution and everything else because those guys had the most to lose if they lost the war for independence. The patriarchy for who's the patriarchy? Can we just can we just full stop here? Can we just who's the patriarchy? All right, who are we talking about? I love this who's the patriarchy? How can we get to the patriarchy? We haven't been able to crush the patriarchy since 1965. We've been talking about this for quite some time. Our bodies ourselves. We haven't been talking about the feminine mystique. We haven't since then. Because you have to sort of seed the fucking fields there is what you have to do. You've got to make it ridiculous. That's really what it is. And I'm not surprised. What are those? What is it? See, here's the thing is, again, it's social constructionism. It's the blank slate, social constructionism, emotionalism, and egalitarianism. Those are the four horsemen of the woke. Social constructionism, the blank slate, emotionalism, the language of emotionalism being the really sort of the definitive atmosphere, the definitive subroutine that's running in the background. And then of course, egalitarianism, everything ought to be equal. Everything ought to, and notice that all of those sort of ideologies and all of those misconceptions of you want to talk about here's the thing is if somebody was going to ask me about well, what do you think this is, Rolla? I'm not going to go, well, it's a patriarchy, it's this, or it's, I don't even like to write the word feminism right now because I think feminism has been used as this sort of catch-all, it's feminism did this to the American, it killed the US, it killed the American family. No, it didn't. Actually, technology killed the American family, the nuclear family, not feminism. Technology did. And it's just untenable to presume we could go back to a 20th century ideal of what family and the nuclear family could be, right? It's untenable to do that. And why? Because we have a technology that makes it inefficient right now, and we're still dealing with that. But of course, what you'll get from the traditional conservative side is they use the term feminism in the same way that these idiots use the term patriarchy, because they don't know what else to say. It sounds like logic. It sounds like something that makes sense. It sounds like something that, like a math equation that pans out, because we all know what patriarchy is, right? No, we fucking don't. Because patriarchy is a concept that was created by 1970s, late 60s, early 70s militant feminists to push out an ideal.
Just a lot of women or assigned female at birth people.
Assigned female at birth people. We're going to use this language. That is, again, tacitly assuming everyone is going to agree. Baggage, okay? Why would that make any difference? So nothing they could possibly say would make empirical logical sense. And perhaps maybe based on that empirical data and that logic and that fucking rationality and that reason might in some way supersede your fucking feelings. Understand that the presumption. And remember, this guy is on the MRA side. This guy is trying to presumes the fact that everybody agrees with him, first of all, because he's using emotionalist language. And then second of all, he presumes that emotionality, as I said before, emotionalism is the highest goal. It's the highest attainable. It's where we all want to be. We all want to be in touch with our feelings, right? Okay, so you got that. Gender isn't real, or plants with complicated emotions. Again, emotionalism is the highest order. We don't actually, because guys who have like self-deleted, they don't do that because they're not around to do that. See, what's happening here is whenever you bring up, like I said before, one of my favorite topics is whenever my two favorite topics are the selective services and male self-deletion. You know why? Because you will see women and men, men who pretend to be women, you will see them twist in the wind when you talk about male suicide rates. Because they have to come up with some pithy bullshit that they think is the reason. Well, it's because men's mental health, or they don't seek help, or the blah, 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 or it's their masculinity. I love that. Their masculinity is what's preventing them from unaliving themselves. Get the fuck out of here. Like, you know nothing about suicide. You have no experience. You have no frame of reference, but you'll go out and broadcast this shit on Jubilee with 9.1 million subs. Yeah. What was this Jubilee company profile? So Jubilee was founded in 2010. It's privately owned. It's worth the latest deal amount is $1.1 million. Okay, so that's their latest deal amount. They have 72 employees. They have 14 investors. What else? Ownership. They're privately owned, financing status, venture capital backed. Movies, music, and entertainment is what their subcategory is. So they're privately owned, as far as I know. I don't think that anybody's necessarily funding them. So these are the executives, and I don't know who they are, but Jason Lee is the co-founding and chief executive officer. Shelly Soriano, Ryan Hashimi, and Jules Cruz. Those are the four titled team members, four of them. Apparently there's 6, but we only got 4. Your review. Okay, so you can actually look more. Board members. There's 3 board members. I don't know who is necessarily. As far as I can tell, they're privately owned, so I can't really say one way or the other whether they are funded by. I do know that Jasmine Jafar is paid by Progressive Victory, and nothing that comes out of her mouth should be taken at face value. Everything that comes out of her has an asterisk by it, as far as I'm concerned.
The way it was, where and then everyone else has.
Because they were the ones that had skin in the fucking game. You did not. Females did not. We did not look at rights, and we did not look at voting, and we did not look at democracy in the same way that we do today, because we've allowed idiots like her to come in and pretend that everything is an egalitarian fucking buffet and a free-for-all. A little bit further up in here, because this guy is impossible to listen to. Why this guy is even on the show that's pretty much what's going to define this entire conversation here. Is you can never have a conversation about men's issues without the little bird chiming in saying, but what about women? And the reason for that is because it's a dynamic and a phenomenon called the women are wonderful phenomenon. It's a real thing. You can look it up. Whenever we have issues whenever there is a research that in some way benefits men and in some way shines an unflattering light on women's nature, that is when you see women have to chime in and say, but men do it too. Or if there is something that benefits men, or if there's some sort of legitimate like complaint, like men are never allowed to complain, period. But if there's a legitimate complaint, there's always going to be, well, that's like, for instance, male suicide. You can't disagree with the fucking numbers. So what do? Well, women off themselves, or they attempt suicide more often than men. So we should actually redirect and divert this attention from the fact that men are deleting themselves at almost four times the rate as women. They're also the fact that men delete themselves at 8 times the rate after a divorce. What are the catalysts? What are the things that do this? They never go any fucking deeper than this. And so I don't even know if I want to even continue with this fucking stupid ass video. Because nothing is again, it's another Jubilee video where nothing gets done and there's nothing that it's like fucking, it's a conversation. It's the conversational equivalent of a fucking rice cake. Okay. There's something there, but there's no flavor, and it's nothing but air and fucking, air and paper mache. That's all there is to this. So when I'm looking at issues of very serious issues of male suicide, oh, these guys never do anything. They don't offer any solutions. I'm offering solutions. I'm doing this my fucking self. I'm one man, right? It's just they simply fucking don't know. And they would rather go and broadcast this bullshit false narrative and then have, like, even on the side that's supposed to be pro-man sounds exact from the jump. Like, I wouldn't want to watch any more of this. It goes for an hour and a half. Why do I want to watch anything more after that? It's for a guy like me, it's just absolute cringe. The fact that they would have Jasmine Jafar and fucking Pearl on there tells me they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't know who to get, apparently. So, like, what fucking use are they? I would rather be fucking working with guys, boots on the ground, fucking hands-on work and helping dudes out than fucking have to deal with this bullshit. So when people say, well, Rollo, what would you do if Jubilee hits you? I'm not sure I would even want to. I would think might probably turn it down. I mean, Mike would probably tell me to go on, blah, blah, blah. I might do it if I would use it as an opportunity to sort of broadcast, reignite and MOA and everything else. I might do that, but no, I wouldn't go on with any expectation of there being any like substantive like conversation that would go on. Like I said, it's the conversational equivalent of a fucking rice cake. So let me see here, Bob. What did you say? Anybody who puts Pearl and Jasmine on a platform for relevancy or interview, you have zero credibility and should not be taken seriously. Yeah, I 100% agree. I also, you have to remember that anytime I see anyone from Progressive Victory on any show, I don't bother looking at it. When people say, what did you think about Jubilee snubbing you? I didn't even know they were having a fucking discussion. And if it's Jasmine Jafar, if it's Farah, if it's Pixie, if it's Not So Erudite, if it's Destiny, if it's Lawrence Southern, if it's Tim Pool now too, by the way, if it's anybody from Tenet Media, all of you guys have a fucking, I hate to say it because some of you guys you have an asterisk by your fucking name right now. And so when I listen to Jasmine Jafar on there, she just basically misrepresents everything she says. She has no earthly idea what she's talking about. She would rather it's standard. The standard fare for people who are basically paid to speak for Progressive Victory or, I don't know, Tenet Media, the Russian mob, anybody who's being paid, who has been paid or is being paid from somebody else. If you are a fucking sock puppet, you have a fucking hand up your ass and you're mouthing those words. And even if you're not getting paid from them anymore and you've completely cut ties, it doesn't matter. You still have a fucking asterisk. You were the kind of person who would let that happen, who would agree to that, who would, even if you agree to what they say, you cannot be trusted, period. End of story. No one owns Rollo Tomasi. No one owns Mike Sartain. No one owns anybody like the guys that they don't want to talk to. Nobody owns us. That's why. So when I see her on there, when I see these people on there, I'm not going to take anything that they have to say seriously. But their MO, their standard operating system is straw man the red pill, straw man the Men's Rights Act. Because now it's not now it's the MRAs, I guess. It's not red pill anymore. It's MRAs. It's MGTOW. Trust me, by the time we get to the middle of 2025, MGTOW is going to be, that's going to be the new trending hashtag, by the way. Keep that in mind. MGTOW will be the trending hashtag before we get to, well, probably by the time we get to May of 2025, MGTOW will come back into vogue again. Just like they don't want to say red pill in this video, they would rather say MRAs, men's rights activists. Like, who are they talking about? Who are you talking about? Paul Elam and Dean Esme, the people at A Voice for Men, that has been defunct since what, 2015. The fact that she has like Pearl interviewed Paul Elam not too long ago, and that's the same bullshit. It's this. I mean, I can't even believe that like the guy is just like, again, it's like a guy that gets sort of like unfrozen from cryo freeze. It's the same shit over and over again. And they were ineffective then, and they're ineffective now, and they'll be happy to be the preferred whipping boy because it gets them a little bit of attention. What is he even fucking doing? What are these guys doing? Who has even heard of him? I remember in 2015, 2016, I pointed this out, and they really didn't like me pointing this out. Was there are more women who are more famous MRAs than there are men. Seriously, there's like, who is there? Janice Fiamengo, Cassie J. Who else? What's her name? Honey Badger girl. I can't remember her name. Karen Strawn. Christina Hoff Summers. Who else? Like, I can name more female MRAs than I can name male MRAs. That should tell you something about your fucking movement. Okay. I mean, go back to square one, go back to where you started, start over again, because you guys don't have a really good track record when it comes to this shit. And again, the MRA movement has never been effective at pretty much anything. I'll tell you, would you like to know why? I'll tell you why. Because they are a top-down organization. It should be a bottom-up organization. You want to know why I work with MOA? People say, oh, it's because you work with Mike Sartain. No, it's also because MOA is each one tell one. It's a bottom-up approach. You know why I never joined the war room and all this other stuff? Besides the fact that these guys are fucking nuts. Because it's a top-down. It's, we're going to change the world and then you'll be better off. No, I've always been about each one tell one. Start at the individual, start at the man. Each one I'm only one guy. That's why you want to build a brotherhood, uber alles. Each one tell one. It has to start from the bottom up instead of the top down. That's why the MRAs fail. That's why anything like the war room and the rest of these idiots, that's why they fail. That's why they're easy to ridicule. We're going to go out there and change the world. Well, it seems pretty stupid, doesn't it? I mean, it seems like you're trying to be He-Man. It seems like you're trying to be Conan the Barbarian. It seems laughable. And the reason it does is because you're not at the grassroots level. You're not each one tell one. That's why I like MOA. That's what I'm doing with Reignite. It's a grassroots. It's at the level of the individual. So whenever you see somebody like say Jordan Peterson, for example, his book's titled 12 Rules for Life, and then 12 more rules for life, and 7 rules for this, and they're like one size fits all. That's top down. Follow these universal rules and you'll have a better life. No, because everybody's different. We have different combinations of problems. Some guys need to go get their fitness on point. Some guys need to get their money on point. Some guys need to get their game and their socialization on point. Like, what is it what's the area that you need to focus on? Well, I don't care what your fucking 12 rules for fucking life are if you can't get a job. I don't care what you think is meaningful. Maps of meaning. I don't care what you fucking think is meaning. If you have no purpose, you have no meaning. You've got to go through purpose. Well, go through purpose at the grassroots level, at the level of the individual. That's why I say in the very beginning of my program and in the MOA and even just my books in general, I'm not in the business of making men better men. I'm in the business of helping men make themselves into better men. I've said that since day fucking one. It's in my very first book, 2013. It has been there forever. I'm Slayer. I'm the Slayer of the red pill. Okay. The message has not changed. The music has not changed. It's still the same fucking thing. That's why these guys fail. That's why you get Jubilee and these fucking these ridiculous shows, and they don't know who to get because they're scared shitless. How come you haven't been on that show, Rollo? Because they're scared shitless. How come you haven't been on Chris Williamson's show? How come you haven't gone on Joe Rogan? How come you haven't gone on X, Y, and Z? Because they're scared shitless. They are. Do you not think I have reached out to these people? Do you not think I have challenged like all these people who want to give me this ideological bullshit about like, oh, the red pill is this or the red pill is that? Great. Come to Vegas, back up your convictions, and let's do it. We'll do it live. Sit across the table from me, and we'll have this debate. We'll have this discussion. The amount of people who have taken me up on that, zero. And the TradCon sphere, zero. Your fucking convictions are as empty as your God. Your convictions are as empty as your fucked up drive-by grifter faith. And I'll tell you that right to your fucking face. Your God is dead. Your God is empty because you know why? His representatives or whoever you the fuck are will not come on any show and will not fucking back up what you have to say. You won't do it. Up to this point. In fact, I shouldn't say that. You know who's backed up their bullshit? Gary the numbers guy. Gary the numbers guy has more ass in his britches than 100% of the TradCons that won't come on the show. 100% of the people who won't back up their convictions. You want to know why? Oh, how come Rollo hasn't been on Jubilee? How come Joe Rollo hasn't been on this and that? And Chris Williamson, blah, blah, blah. Because they're scared shitless. They won't even recognize. They won't even fucking respond to a fucking tweet. You think they're going to have me on their show? No. They're bullshit. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And they know it's bullshit. And it continues to be bullshit. And you know what the thing is the longer it goes on, the more people see it's horseshit. The more I hope Jubilee does 10 more of these. And they're going to go, where's fucking Rollo? How come Rollo's not a trigonometry, whatever that fucking show is, right? I have a guy on Twitter, and I don't know, I forget the guy's name, but thank you for doing this. Every time they tweet and he's got they're announcing some new interview, soft white underbelly, they'll have fucking James Sexton on there has been on there twice, 3 times, something like that. They'll have him on there with Orion Teraband. They're scared shitless of me. They won't have me on because they're scared. They're pussies. I'm calling you a fucking pussy, soft white underbelly. I'm calling you a fucking pussy, Jubilee. I'm calling you a fucking pussy, Chris Williamson, but you knew that. Because you won't, at some point, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and it's going to keep looking like you're avoiding it. Because I'm going to keep going on with Reignite. I'm going to keep going on to Access Vegas. I'm going to keep doing the shows that I'm doing. You know who's Brian from whatever has had me on. Great. I'm all about it. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me on, bro. Tim Pool has had me on. Tim has the balls to actually have his people reach out to me and have me on. Chris Williamson, fuck off. Chris won't do shit. He doesn't do shit. He's worthless. He'll have Destiny on there to talk shit about me and talk shit about the red pill because he thinks he's a fucking expert or he's some sort of authority figure. He's not. The only reason he's interested in Destiny is because he's got more subs. Destiny's not on some fucking DHS watch list. He's not on NGO's radar for diverting hate's NGO's radar. You would think that would at least earn me a fucking, hey, maybe raise an eyebrow or something. Nope. They don't care. Rollo, do you think using seeking arrangements for sex like CGA does? I didn't know he did. Seeking arrangements is prostitution, but it's prostitution. It's no more prostitution than OnlyFans. Do you have do you subscribe to OnlyFans? I wouldn't if you're going to, what does he use it for? Does he use it to fuck chicks? Does he say he uses it to fuck chicks, or does he say he uses it to, because seeking arrangements to me is like sugaring. That's a sugar site. That's where women go to find rich motherfuckers, to find a guy that they want to have. They're looking for sugar daddies. If you're okay with that, if you want to be a sugar daddy, then whatever, you go do what you want to. But if all you're looking for is sex, dude, there's fucking Tryst.com. There's skipthegames.com. You can get an escort. If you want to get laid, you can get laid. In fact, all you involuntary celibates, you don't even have to come to Las Vegas or Nevada. All you have to do is go on Tris or go on fucking go on Skip the Games. There'll be a girl at your door in half an hour. Do I think it's prostitution? No, I think it's, well, in long game prostitution, yes. Is it for sugaring? Yes. Is it an inefficient way to get laid? No. CGA, come on, man. If you want to get laid, dude, this is like lots of more efficient ways to do it. And again, no judgment. Do what you want to, man. But my MRA picks, Rollo, Myron, Sartain, and Sexton. Yeah, that will never happen. Not on Jubilee, anyways. Rollo, the reason you're not invited to these types of shows is the same reason Dr. Phil brought on the kid with Asperger's. Yes, along with you on that show, they want people to laugh at, not to talk to. Yes, it's funny you should say that, because when I came back from that show, like my schedule was, I went on that show in the morning and they hustled me out of that fucking place, man. I was like, everything except for like the black hood over my head and throw me in the fucking van and get me out to LAX, man. I was surprised. I'm like, why are these guys like so like, I can talk about it now. I couldn't talk about it before because it's been 2 years and like the show's over now. But like when I was on there, I never met Dr. Phil. The only time I was face to face with Dr. Phil was on the show. Like he didn't come shake my hand. He didn't like say, hey, thanks for being on the show, blah, blah, blah. You know, there was no contact with him whatsoever. In fact, I wasn't even allowed to have contact with the other people who were on the panel. The only person I had contact with afterwards was the one girl who read a question to me, that kid, Ben, and that was it. Us three, and we were shuttled out into the alleyway after that show because they wanted us out of and then we were allowed back into the building to get our stuff because I had my suitcase and everything because I was flying back into Las Vegas, right? And then once I got my shit and I changed clothes and I got everything together, I didn't even see I had to ask for the producer so I could say, hey, thanks for having me on. Bye. You know, they weren't even going to let me talk to the producers. I had to insist that I shake her hand before I left. And then, so they really just like shuttled me out of there and hustled me out of Paramount. It was Paramount Studios. They hustled me out of there and they put me in a van and the van drove me to LAX and I was happy to be gone because it seemed like they were just like trying to fucking get rid of me. And I thought it was probably because I pissed off Dr. Phil, but they weren't expecting me, man. I don't give a flying fuck what that fat kid in fucking Brazil has to say. They weren't expecting me to go on there and dominate the way that I did. And when Ben was on there, I knew what I was in for. They were trying to till the fields, right? They were trying to set the narrative before I could even get on there to talk about anything. They wanted the red pill. They wanted me to be ridiculous. Like that kid in the Jubilee video, the guy with the dreadlocks, man, he's Ben. He is the Ben. Notice that. So it's interesting. We should see that because that guy who goes on there, he's supposed to be on the MRA side, but he sounds ridiculous. He sounds like he's actually one of the he should be on the feminist side. Why do they do that? Because now it's no longer 4-on-4, it's 5-on-4 or 5-on, what is it? No, there's 4 on each side. So it's now 5-on-3. But so, presuming that, you know, assuming that Pearl is even a genuine actor in all of this, right? So now we've all like within the first like 7 minutes of the Jubilee video, we've already had Ben. He's the one that goes on there and makes it look ridiculous, and he himself says I don't even know why I'm on this side. He doesn't even know why he's on. He sounds like he should be on the feminist side. Because they want the MRAs to look ridiculous. So they're fighting back from a deficit. That's exactly what they did to me. They just didn't know who they were getting involved with. Because I saw that and I go, hey, look, I'm not going to be an apologist for Andrew Tate. I'm going to be me and you can ask me some fucking questions. And I see what you do. And I was pissed off too. Man, I was like fucking righteous anger at that point because I'm like, I saw what they were doing with Ben and I didn't think it was fair at all. They threw Ben into the fucking ringer. And I don't know. I've never talked to him ever before or since then, but I will tell you this, that that tactic is exactly what they use on Jubilee. They throw that guy on there to make the pro side seem like it's ridiculous. And I guarantee you, if we watch that all the way to the end, and I guess I probably will, so you don't have to, but I guarantee if you watch that all the way to the end, you're going to see that they're fighting back from a deficit. And Pearl doesn't know that tactic. She's stupid. She doesn't realize that they deliberately put her at a disadvantage. Oh, we need to let these people talk because you're going to probably disagree with them. And of course, what happens is Jasmine just starts mouthing off at fucking Pearl the moment she gets on there, because that's what it's about. Remember, debates aren't about actually debating anything. And you're right about that, Sideshow Bob. It's not about actually anything substantive. It's about entertainment. And Mike Sartain told me that when I came back from the Dr. Phil show. That's what he said. He says, dude, don't let it eat you up too much. He said, because he hadn't seen it, obviously. He said, I'm sure you did fine. He said, but don't let it eat you up, because that show's not about information or education. It's about entertainment. And that's all they were looking for. And if you gave them the entertainment, if you gave them those clippable moments, that's all they fucking care about. And it's true on Dr. Phil, and it's true on Jubilee. Let's be brutally honest. Jubilee is selling discord and division to create an environment so that it's so-called gender war, just like Tenet Media. Yep. And that's why they have 9 million subs, right? No, serious. Red pill guys, just soy boys and Pearl. Yeah, there's no red pill guys there. Emailed you about October 16th LA event. Please get back to me. Thanks. I'll check that out. Did they not get back to you? I think I forwarded your email to my team, Pavel, but if they haven't, I'll look into it. I'm glad you brought that up. So I'll have to finish with that anyways. So coming up on October 16th, 17th, and 18th is going to be a Reignite event. It's going to be surrounding the 17th, of course, is Babes in Toyland. It's at the Mondrian Hotel. It's at the Sky Bar and Mondrian Hotel, which is a fabulous venue. And you guys will absolutely love this if you go. Do you have to, I keep getting this question. Do you have to be a member of MOA or Reignite to go? No, you don't. You can go to the Mondrian. You're going to have to probably want to get a room at the Mondrian. It will be at Sky Bar. It is the ticket in the cover charge is, there's no cover. You have to just give money for the charity which I believe is Animal Rescue this time. And it's a pink party. So it's not a white party. You have to wear pink. Why? Because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Okay. So the theme is pink. I have to rock pink. You have to rock pink. So if you got some pink outfit or some sort of pink shirt or something like that, it's mandatory. They won't let you in unless you have some kind of pink on you. That's coming up. It's in Los Angeles. It's in Hollywood, California. Sky Bar is on October 17th. You do not have to be a part of Reignite to go, but you do have to be a part of Reignite or MOA if you want to do any of the stuff that we are doing. So on the 16th, you've got 2 hours with me. You got 2 hours with Joe Marin. You've got probably another 2 hours with Jim Kilgore for style stuff. I know he wants to take some guys to go get fitted suits and to help you out with your style issues. I'll be there, of course, to help you guys out with like game and all your dating issues and stuff like that. Joe's there for like emotional support. We've got a really good team. So we got some things that are lined up and some special events and some things that are still kind of in the works. And then on the 18th, which is the night or the day after, the morning after Babes in Toyland, we're going to have an after action kind of thing, sort of like a brunch kind of thing, I guess from 10 a.m. to like noon. And so we're just going to talk about like what went on the night before. So we're just it's basically just like helping guys like sort of understand and analyze what worked, what didn't work for them. And so it's immediate. It's right there. I think we have some other events that are planned. I don't really want to drop those just yet, but there's like a lot of value added that's going into this one. This is a much more elaborate meetup than the last one we did in June. And then, of course, we did one in August for the Babes in Toyland one that was in Vegas, which was a raging success. And the guys that went to that really loved it. So you're not going to want to miss this one. But if you want to get involved in Reignite, again, it's the second link down in my link tree right there in the description. get involved. If you want to get involved, it's for you. It's for guys who are 40 plus. It's kind of like MOA 40 plus. It's for guys who are older, guys who have different interests, guys who have they have different plans, they have different intentions, stuff like that. If you are coming out of a bad divorce, definitely for you. As I said before, that demographic that we're looking at right now is the prime demographic for male self-deletion. So we're here to help. So, and again, it's a customizable situation and customizable group. So if you are more into the finance side, if you're more into entrepreneurship, we have those guys for you. If you're into fitness, if you need help with your game, if you need understanding, like if you just want a one-on-one with me, I mean, that's probably the best way to meet me live in person. So yeah, Reignite is, and by the way, it's taken off crazy right now. So do get in. We've actually had to raise the price. So we have, as I told you guys before, we're probably going to raise it. So now we're at $2,500 for a membership. And that's the base membership. We were at $2,000, but now we've upped it to $2,500 like we said we were, because now we're doing more. And again, a lot of this stuff is generally, it's not because we're gouging anybody, it's because we want to do more. So we want to be able to go and I want to be able to have, say, Jim Sexton come out and do a seminar on what to expect when you're divorced, when you're getting divorced, when you're getting married. And so I want to be able to fly him out and put him up. So that's why we do this. So, but again, it's a group, it's a project, and not only am I a part of it, I'm just organizing it. This is your group. I give it to you. So I want you guys to tell me what it is that you want, and I'll be happy to accommodate you and put it out for you. So there you go. Yeah. No brokies. Thank you. Please. I would love to be able to do shit for free. I do shit for free. You can read the Rational Mail for free. You can read my book, well, yeah, you probably read a bootleg PDF of my books for free. You can certainly read my blogs for free. You can subscribe for free for my Substack for things that aren't paid for subscriberships. But you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter. So there you go. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for me today. I have to go and pack up my garage shit right now, which is right below me. So I can hear people bumping around down there, and I'm probably wondering where I am. I'm going to go over and check out whatever podcast and see what's going on over there. Hopefully you guys, hopefully this has been educational for you, but there you have it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Reignite, get on board. It's great. You'll love it. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. And where is my music? There's my music. Ha, got it.
I need to feel you on top of me. It was my first time, but I was just a kid when we met and went to bed. It was my first time. What do you expect from me? I'm breaking up the rules now in the game. I've got some new tools. Been through the same time. Came by when open like a matchbox stereo. Keep my thoughts now, let go. Bound to keep me up all night. But maybe we can fuck again, and maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again, then maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Yeah, I could have the best in my life. Now we're fucking in the bathroom, tearing up every wall while I got your hair. Why you screaming my name? She was swinging in the bedroom, whole time stopping and stuffing with her hair. Like she's Claudia Kelly. So baby, come wipe me up. Ride me up and down like a pony. Turning up my song, getting nasty. Working up and down on your body.
a publication and publisher of the Rational Mail. 2024. Very much. Real. My stuff.